Threat, from your position, who do you think right now is the best Swedish Counter-Strike player in the world?
Hampus.
Hampus.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Right now, and this is because it's been very changing a lot even during this year. At some point, I would have said the res. And to be fair, with fnatic, the way they're playing, sure they haven't played any tier 1 teams, but they're playing really good, really good. And Brolin is showing himself again. Yeah, he's back. So it would be one of those three, but in the current form of everyone, I would probably say Hampus.
All right.
Add some fun to your space with Xtrfy, designed in Sweden with focus on quality products built on experience. You're looking at Project 4, their 4th generation of products with super cool colorways to stand out, with matching sets to satisfy with a solid B4 bungee, lightweight ergonomic M4 mouse, the K4 keyboard is fantastic, all of which are performance focused, and finish it off with colorful GP4 mouse mats that are bold in design and smooth on the surface. The retro theme in particular has got the feels. Complete your setup with Xtrfy. No regrets, guaranteed.
Fist bumps go to the teammates.
I wanna see you falling fast. Win the round. Win the game.
Parimatch, your esports teammate. Hey buddy, let me show you how to fix that. Bitskins.com. Buy and sell skins instantly. Deposit and withdraw funds instantly with crypto or directly to your Visa card. Woohoo! Bitskins.com, the best skin marketplace.
The nice thing about Displate is they're super high quality and very easy to hang up. All you have to do is mount the magnet they provide you, then just stick the poster on the wall. Every art piece they offer is super collectible and looks great no matter where you place it in your house or room. Another wonderful thing about Displate is they also look after the environment. Every poster someone buys, Displate will plant 1 tree. They have already planted over 14 million trees and they're still planting. So you're not just getting an awesome poster, you're also helping the environment.
Gather round, step right up. Get your HLTV confirmed episode here. I don't know if you guys are back from the 40s when they used to have fairs and yell out things, but that's when I'm from. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and grills, welcome to another episode of HLTV Confirmed. Lucas, what episode number is it? 64?
64.
Oh, we've nailed it. 64, the date, Friday the 19th of November, 2021. The time, 8 p.m. Just in case we have any time travelers watching, you now know exactly what you're dealing with. And you need to know about the sponsors who support this show. Xtrfy. If you want to look extra fly while you're fragging on out, head over there, pick yourself up a mouse pad, maybe a headset. You never know what you need. Bitskins.com. Buy and sell CSGO skins and items. Our newest sponsor, we've got Displate in the mix. Metal posters for any decorative needs. You know, you want to spruce up a room, you want to look a little bit nicer. You want to have some movie posters, some anime, games, landscapes, animals. You name it. Check it out, Displate.com and Parimatch. Remember to gamble responsibly. Another bit of housekeeping here before we get this one underway. Remember to visit anchor.fm/HLTV for all your audio-only options. Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many, many more. All right, that's enough beating around the bush. Lucas, what's the weather forecast this evening?
No idea. It's like
no idea.
It's almost night.
You meant
outside.
to roll with the bit. You meant to roll the bit. You meant to go, yeah, Chad is looking good here from production, mate. You know, we're cruising at 19,000 feet. There's just no tech issues. We're looking fucking lovely. We're going in. You know, that's the bit. So next time we'll run it in a couple weeks. People at home will have forgotten and we'll run it again.
Just imagine if these intros people actually understood that they don't need to give like an actual answer to your question. It's just like more of a setup.
Yeah, we're rolling.
Yeah, I mean, this is essentially after like 80 episodes of HLTV Confirmed. This is something that I learned. People ask you something and then you just like say whatever you want. You don't actually have to answer the question. You just need to like, it just needs, yeah, exactly. You just need to like continue the flow. That's the only thing that's important. It doesn't matter what you're saying, actually.
You had the next question coming your way. Are we hitting the ceiling of amount of shows we can run in a short period of time?
Yeah, this is practically
maxing
the
out.
max. We're maxing. Like we can never reach this again. This is not great. This is not great.
Suboptimal.
But we had like a special opportunity here to get threat on, and we're like, it's worth all of the hassle. It's worth like just not having any social life, and let's do it.
Yeah, okay. Striker, we need a yes or no answer from you. We'll get more into it in the show. So I want yes or no, all right?
Okay.
And then we're going to move on. Are Sinners making roster changes?
No.
All right. Well, that was a quick one to answer. Now, on tonight's show, we got to keep tabs on the roster mania. We have an upset or two over there with V4, Blast 4 finals. And, of course, we have the hot seat with none other than NIP's coach, Threat. Now, Threat, how awkward does it feel sitting there while I'm doing all the intros just waiting? Is it something you can live with that, or does it get a bit awkward after a while?
Yeah, well, slightly awkward. You never know what to say anything, but it's okay.
Yeah, I think what I want to do, like in the future, I might define like a couple of rules early, just to maybe there's a couple of podcasts I listen to. They make the guest wait, they bring the guest in early. I'm coming up with the balance still, but you're here, you're with us, and I can see it looks like you're in a hotel room, mate.
Yeah, we're in Copenhagen, boot camping for Blast. As many people know, we're half Danish right now. So yeah, we're here a bit early. Some other teams are here as well. It's just great.
Okay. All right. What we're going to do is, Lucas, roll the bumper. We'll get into the hot seat and we'll dig into all those questions with Threat in a moment. All right, we're back. Now, those tech issues may come around and creep and be here with us this evening, but we'll do our best to solve them as we can go, everybody playing at home. Now, we are with the hot seat with Threat, and we're going to have a lot of things to dig into. I don't know really the best place to be starting here, but when I was
I have one. I think the question for Threat is, can you move your microphone just a bit closer to your mouth? I think that's the first one, just a bit, just like that. And
not a question.
I think that would be good. That's a question.
It is a question. You're right.
Even there is no answer, right?
Is it better now? Hello?
I think it is. I think it's louder. I think it's I think it's no 40% audio loss is not down to like 25. So we're good, I'd say.
I'm not having any issues with maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just used to the audio. But do you have anything else, Prof, or did you want to leave it there?
No, that's it.
Okay.
I'm done for the show.
You're done now?
Goodbye.
All right, it's been good having Prof here. No, look, honestly, when I was going back, I was like, all right, we got Thread on. We got a lot to talk about here, but I just want to look at like the online era, right? I just wanted to check out from when you rejoined NIP. So right, when you rejoined NIP, you came on and I think Pitter was still there. And then you transferred across to be the head coach again in early 2020. But then I'm looking at it from like when you transferred to being the head coach. This is for everybody at home of what happened. Forrest left. He went to Dignitas. So Nork joins. Then we have Hampus acquired and Lekro gets moved to the bench. Then Nork towards the tail end of the year in September gets placed on medical leave. He's not away for that long. He comes back, right? Then we move into 2021, and this is where the madness really begins. So a couple of roster changes since you've been there early in 2020. And then now Twist benched, ZTR in from Young Ninjas. And then the next thing is Twist is gone. You add Device. Nork gets fucking put transfer listed. ZTR back to the Young Ninjas. LNZ comes in. And now we've got es3tag. So in that space of just under 2 years we're talking about, mate, it feels like you haven't had a stable roster for longer than like 4 months. How does that feel?
Well, it depends on how you view it, right? If you look at the first year in 2020, we came into that year, we picked up Nork, which was kind of a big pickup. People didn't know how good it would be. And we only actually did one change throughout that entire year, and that was Lekro for Hampus, right? That was in May, I think, after one of the RMR tournaments, if I remember correctly. And then we said, okay, we're going to give this lineup a shot. And obviously, because of the state of the world with Corona, we had a lot of tournaments. And at the end of the year, obviously, our results wasn't that good. We had a really good run in the RMRs, which was a bit unfortunate because obviously the major was cancelled and we lost all our points. Well, not all the points, but we got like 600 for having the third highest in Europe, I think. But we kind of knew that we had to make some changes at the end of the year, right? I think it was a loss versus Cloud9 in Blast. They kind of triggered this last year, actually versus es3tag as well. So at that point, we started building the talent team because we felt like we wanted to look for some younger talents in Sweden. We started that project. And obviously, we didn't have that much time, so we sort of just got it running. We had like one last hurrah with the old lineup in the first tournament of the year. I think it was IM Katowice. I don't actually remember which one it was. Anyway, didn't go that well, and we sort of thought, okay, we're just gonna go for it. We're gonna pick a player from Young Ninjas immediately, and we just picked the players that had performed the best. We picked Eric ZTR, and we just went from there.
Okay. Well, that catches it up for a lot of all the changes that happened and whatnot. I think that the most curious one, we obviously had Hampus on the show a little bit earlier in the year talking about having players coming in from that academy roster and how it doesn't still feel super stable. I think kind of from an in-game leader perspective. How does it feel from a coach perspective? Do you prefer it this way, that you're like, well, this guy's not performing and I can just bench him and we can have someone come in who might put in the hard yards? Because I guess you have the best optics on all this, right? You get to actually see how much work these players are putting in, if they're improving on the issues that you sit there and talk to them about. Like, do you like the way the system's going? Because I think Prof, Striker, and myself are fans of having the coach having a lot of say in this regard. Is that how it works with you?
Yeah, definitely. It's me and your favorite guy, Jonas Gunderson, who makes most of the decisions.
We're good mates.
Yeah, we're good mates. Perfect. Yeah, but that's kind of how it works, right? And every time I make one of these hard decisions, I sort of have a list of pros and cons. And obviously, changing players is bad for like the team play and tactics, because every time you do that, you sort of reset everything a little bit, because you need to change some positions. You need to like find your groove again. Maybe you have a rough tournament, and obviously that is a con. So every time we do this, we sort of have to think like, do we believe this in this lineup in the long term? But it's better now to actually change it for the long term, right? So an example here is that's why you have silly season after the major, like for obvious reasons, because you need to build a lineup for the major. After the major, I mean, sure, we changed one player, but you see even crazier changes in Vitality, Liquid, and all of those teams, right?
Yeah.
And that's basically it, right? And we believed at those points that we hadn't found the lineup we wanted, and that's why we kept changing, because it sort of felt like it would be even a more waste of time to keep pushing something we didn't think would work.
Cool. Striker, you got anything? Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So did you want to? I mean, okay, I'll start with this. Obviously, like whenever a change happens, and we're kind of like, we here as people who don't really see into the background, or at least not all of it, like we're not sure who really makes the decisions. And obviously, like you were saying that that you make them with Jonas, but is there like a percentage of like how much of it is you? Does he have like a veto powers? Does he have the final say? Like how does that work with like the dynamic between you two?
Yeah, well, like obviously you have like the one who is like actually has power in any company, or like shareholders, but who controls it, like the CEO, and the coach. That is us too. So we make the decisions, and obviously if you're gonna make like a major transfer like device, there are other things in play that we can't control, obviously. So we sort of have to play ball with the rest of NAP and like the other organizations to make it work, right? I mean, sure, I would love to have Simple on my team, but sure, like I still have to play by the rules, right?
Yeah. So what other people were you looking into? I'm sure like the young talent team. I mean, that's obviously a big risk to take, to grab one of those guys and just like put him into a tier 1 team and have to play like some of these tournaments, right? So were there other people that you just couldn't get from the outside, or just like were waiting for the right opportunity? What was that like?
It was sort of a mixture, I guess. We were in talks with some other players, right? But none that was really interesting. And I always liked the idea of picking some really young one that could have sort of become something, rather than picking someone you knew were probably on the decline. So that guy at least has potential, right? So I don't think it was that we picked a player from Young Ninjas and sort of, we're just gonna have you until we find the right one. Like we truly believed, and we really gave them a shot, and we really tried to make it work, right? And that's we do that with all the players we pick into the team.
That right there wouldn't be a bad place to keep the conversation going, because having both of these individuals come in, LNZ and ZTR, what kind of roles would you say that you gave them? Because obviously when you have other names around them, we know that Hampus is going to be more aggressive with the in-game leading stuff. Then Rez is going to take a few more of those star positions. With these guys, it felt like they were just destined to take, one of the bitch roles, right? For other words of it. And these are young kids who don't have a huge amount of experience in those roles. You need to be a little bit more patient, or you're going to be in clutch situations a little bit more, like we saw with LNZ towards the tail end there. He was starting to get a bit better in the clutch and stuff. Would you say that these guys got like pigeonholed into positions that were just remaining, and you tried to to make do with them? Because I get what you're saying in terms of going for the younger players. That's unrealized and untapped potential there. But to fit into the team, like, was it a struggle from your perspective because they're unproven? Like, how did that whole balance have to get struck? Because you obviously want a championship squad, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, sure, with the bitch roles, right? Sort of the supportive roles. The idea was we really wanted someone to go in and embrace those roles. Because if you look at the rest of the lineup, I think we really had the star players in sort of, well, obviously rest at that point. Even Hampus is a playmaker. So I didn't felt like we had room to put someone of those in there. So on that, that's why we actually picked the IGLs of Young Ninjas most of the times. So I had chats with them, and I could clearly tell they had a good idea what's going on in game. I think the biggest mistake I made was that I was sort of conditioned being in the scene for such a long time. And it was such a long time ago. I came from like the lower tiers of CS, a very long time ago. So my expectations were like really high in some regards. And I didn't really help them to get into the tier 1 CS as good as I should have, I think. But when it comes to the roles, that's actually the role we try to find the perfect fit for. And maybe it is the wrong role to look for someone in the talent team, right? Because being in that role, you sort of need a lot of experience. So yeah, I would say that might have been a mistake.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a good thing to catch on to. It's something that I actually wanted to ask about. You bring in an academy player into the main roster, and like the whole academy project also just went a lot faster than it was originally planned. Like the announcements were like, we'll help out some league and something, and then like 5 days later, okay, now we have a team. And like 2 weeks later, oh, our team is top 50 in the world. Like, what the fuck is going on? And then a month later, ZTR is in NIP, right? That's almost how it went. Maybe not exactly, but everything went a lot faster. But when you got the player in NIP, what are the things that you kind of, what are the things that were maybe more like underrated in terms of what you expected, what the expectations were, and what you needed to work on the most with a young player going into a top team?
Yeah, so the expectations I had was that when we bring in someone that's really hungry, that would probably motivate the players a lot, because I think that's been a real struggle in Sweden compared to Denmark. So there's have been some sort of, people have been a bit content in Sweden because we had the era, which was a long time ago now, where we sort of get stuck in those ways. Like everyone sort of wants to become a star player. So my expectations were, we're going to bring in someone more inexperienced. He might make a few mistakes, but he's going to bring a lot of energy, which actually Eric or CTR did that at that point. And I think I mentioned that in a few other interviews. Probably now together with es3tag, because he's really impressive as well, has the best comms of any players I worked with, right?
Okay, nice. I think what we could do is we could pivot here into the other Dane device, right? Obviously the first Dane. This is probably because fnatic now, right, are no longer heavily Swedish, and NIP have now added a second Dane. This device move at the time probably didn't feel like it was going to be such a big deal, but now in hindsight, it kind of is, right? So having device come onto your table, what was the first moment you learned about this?
It was actually Jonas who told me, and I remember my first reaction, because we had a lot of poor tournaments at that point, and I was like, why? At the beginning. But like in the afterwards, I sort of understood it. Like Astralis has been sort of shaky. You had the previous year, we had obviously all the problems with Sipix and Glaive. So I could sort of understand it later, but I actually didn't believe it. I thought it was like, yeah, okay, maybe they had some rough time or something, and he just contacted his agent or something. I didn't know, right? Then like a few weeks later, it sort of became reality, which was insane. Like I really couldn't believe it. But he was sort of on the list. You have some players that they're so good that you will just take them if you're possible to take them, right?
Yeah, and I think the thing is, this kind of, it was actually one of Counter-Strike's better kept secrets, right, boys? Like Striker, we didn't know this one was coming. We do the show in the middle of the day because it blindsided us so much.
Yeah, I think we knew like an hour ahead of time, which is like very surprising with this move.
Yeah, so like it caught us off guard. Surprisingly kept a surprise. But like and we always talk about it on the show, like from Nork's perspective, when, you know, Threat comes, knocks on the door and says, hey, mate, you're getting benched. And he goes, for who? He goes, Device. It's like, yeah, fair enough. Like, that's the kind of conversation where it's like, yeah, well, this is happening, right? But having Device come to the team, we obviously had the highly contentious video with what the 5 steps ahead or whatever the fuck it was. But other than like all of that funny business, like having Device come across to the team, did you notice like it had an immediate effect on the rest of the squad?
Yeah, I did. I mean, when we had the meeting, it was very unfortunate that I really wanted to talk to them earlier, right? But for obvious reasons, we couldn't really tell them until the last second because there were so many moving pieces at that time. And when we told them, they were like, of course, a bit sad for team, but also very excited because they sort of felt like we had the struggles entire 2020 and the beginning of 2021. We had some good tournaments, but we still felt like we were missing something. We were sort of didn't even get into the top 10 yet. So I think they were all really excited, and just having someone with so much experience, and not only that, having someone who's used to winning tournaments, because that was something we were lacking at that point.
So I think like this transfer as a whole, Striker, do you have anywhere to go with the conversation around that? Like, because for me, I'm interested mainly in like the rest of the team and the way it all worked around him there. But I'm probably overseeing a couple of things here in terms of maybe a PR perspective, or is there anything in there that we missed?
There's one thing that I would like to ask about, which is like one of the pieces from that video that Chad referenced with the 5 steps ahead thing. Like he was like, obviously, like the big sentiment from Device was like, I want to get into your team, and you know, I don't want to make this the new Astralis. That's not going to be about me, you know. So how did that work? How much did he bring, you know, to like changing maybe a little bit of the team to build around himself? How much did the team adapt to him, and the other way around, really?
So every time we bring in a new player, I just want to be very clear with them that we don't really want them to sort of assimilate into our system. We want that player to bring his own game, right, and just play around that. So we always have to change something. If you don't change anything when you bring in a new player, you're probably doing something wrong. So we didn't want to copy everything Astralis is doing, but every time you have a new player, they have experiences from other teams. We just want to copy what worked from any other team, right? The exact same way you would copy a strat, right? So we just talked to him. I felt they did it in Astralis, took some of that, right? And mostly we just kept things the same, to be honest. And he really enjoyed it, but they just changed things in game around him.
What was the... Yeah, go.
Whoever wants to go.
How much do you think you changed for him, and specifically? Maybe is there something that you can point out that you changed to accommodate him a little bit better than what you had previously?
So at the start, we didn't. I think we didn't accommodate him enough in the sense that we had the younger players, and we sort of felt like, okay, now we're getting the star who's very experienced, and sort of wanted him to become the captain. And I think that was a big mistake by me, because he sort of lost his mojo a bit, and being the top 3 player, like I don't know how many years in a row it was. And that's sort of, I think that was one of the main reasons why his form sort of declined a bit, because he sort of had to take more of a leadership role within the team, not an IGL, but sort of leading the other players to win tournaments. As for the like actually in game, I think we just want to put him in positions where he has a lot of freedom. I think most of our other teams do this. Usually see their strats is usually based around 4 people, letting the ARPer sort of roam around, except for some sort of few specific strats where we want the ARPer to do something very specific. We just wanted him to do his own thing.
I want to. There's another quote that often get mentioned. That's like signing Cristiano Ronaldo, and now like do not go into too much jokes around it. I guess the idea of that is like you sign someone like Device, you have the star power, you're instantly gonna feel the effect of this player coming into your team. So it be it like in his individual performances, what he brings to the team, like how other people react. Like did you feel, were there in the early days at least some things that you felt like, oh shit, this is like the Device effect now we have this going for us?
Well, not in the beginning, because of just said mistake that I made, I think, because he did struggle a bit in the first few tournaments. The first tournament was also the the
Oh,
Anonimo Anonimo flashpoint thingy, right? So
Yeah.
we already had all the pressure. That happened. Sort of was really hard to sort of stay focused in that tournament after that. Obviously, we still came second place, but I don't think Device was happy with his performance. I think we saw a very, very good performance from rest of that tournament. So at that point, obviously we became better because we got our second place. I think that's very clear. I mean, I don't want to sort of take credit for our peaking performance this last 8 months because, I mean, there's an obvious change we did, and we did that change to Device, and we were sort of outside of the top 10, and now we're in the top 5, and I would even say we're sort of consistently in the top 5.
Okay. Do we want to stick with the Device point, boys, or do you want to move into talking a bit more about the rookies? Because I wouldn't mind going there. Yeah, and we can jump into Device stuff later because I think it will overlap with some other conversation we have. So the ZTR LNZ swap, right? This one here is also quite curious because it is during this Device time, right? Now, what is it that you saw in LNZ that you didn't see in ZTR? Was it just that you didn't think you were getting enough output from him and you wanted to try another option? Or, you know, what was, because for viewers at home, it's probably much of a muchness for the two players, really.
So we saw some individual struggles from Setiar when he went to tier 1 in our team, right? So we gave him, he was really strong at the beginning, then he sort of became a bit nervous. I think he started to lose some confidence because I don't think he really wanted to be in some positions he were in. And at that point, we said, okay, are we going to change positions or are we actually going to try another player? And after long discussions, we settled to try LNC, the other IGL. And he had performed really well at that point. I think Young Ninjas even got into the almost top 30. They didn't go top 30, but they almost went to top 30, right? They beat a lot of good teams like Endpoint. So that's where we really got interested in picking someone up there again. And I think it was the struggles and the issues with confidence from Eric at that point that made us want to do the switch. It was a bit unfortunate that it was very, very sudden. We had so many tournaments, so it was sort of the place where there were no good time to do it. And at the end, we just said, okay, we just need to do it now. And it's also because we were mid-tournament, it was hard, like getting the players involved because we do want to prepare them, right? And I think in hindsight, maybe we should have done it in another timing, but I think it had to be done.
Okay.
Wasn't there Sponge some rumor that it wasn't just LNZ the player that you wanted to bring in, that like Nilo at the time was someone that you're considering, or is it Nilo?
Is it Rolf?
Rolf? I don't know.
No,
if it's an L or
the rumor was about Nilo. I remember this, and I actually had something to do with who we would have as a sixth player on some of these tournaments, right? And there was some discussion, and that discussion that we wanted Nilo as a sixth turned into something else, and then it turned into, oh, they can't get Nilo, but it was for that being just a stand-in at that point, right?
Okay.
I'm a bit. Do you have much to do with the academy team, like, or are you completely removed from it, other than when you want to grab a player, like you have a look and see what's going on? Do you, like, in the day-to-day, is it anything that you get like a say in how it's being run?
Well, right now, no. In the beginning, the idea was actually having me work with them sort of 1 day a week, being in some of the scrims, sort of talking constantly with their coach, currently Slap. But it turns out with the tournament schedule of the year, like it just didn't work. I was too optimistic about this. It's something I'm really sad about because we did it in the first few months. I felt it did really help because I got a completely new perspective. I mean, even if they're playing lower tier CS, just coaching another team, you just see some other ideas they're doing. It's like, oh, you can actually approach this position this way. I didn't think about that, right? But due to the tournament schedule, that sort of it has not been run in the way we wanted it to be, because I think we were slightly optimistic about the time, because there have been a lot of tournaments.
Sure. One of the things that I saw the other day from ZTR at the Academy League, he did an interview with HLTV. Now, I only read the headline, which is pretty classic for me. But the headline read, I tried to take as much as I could from Hampus and implement into this team. Do you think, like, let's just grab that as a concept for a second, right? So when he gets demoted back down to the Academy League team and he takes Hampus's style, or the best he could learn over the 50 odd maps he played with the boys in the tier 1 team. Do you think that's better for being able to grab these players in the future if ZTR is trying to run something similar, or something that is even just spawned off the way that Hampus approaches the game, and these guys get, you know, promoted? Do you think that's a positive to have, or would you prefer to have it the way you were just saying, where maybe they look at things a little bit differently and then they could bring that? This is more of just a personal preference question, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's very good, because then they get into tier 1 and they sort of see what things like clearly doesn't work in tier 1. So it won't be the sort of problem we had with both these players, right? Where they sort of eventually run into a brick wall because they notice, okay, we can't actually do all of this stuff. Like, one of the things that's very different, is the amount of preparation teams do, which basically nullifies a lot of strats you want to do, right? Because it's sort of the thing, like, you can only run this once. But at the tier 2, tier 3, you know, with a sort of fiend movie star level where they play each other all the time, they don't have time to add the strat, so they can sort of have the same playbook, right? And just having those lessons, sort of mixing it with the sort of younger style, and preparing it for tier 1, I think that's really good.
Okay. Boys, you got anything more on this? The academy stuff, LNZ, Linus, same guy, LNZ, ZTR, anything on those boys?
I mean, in general, I wanted to talk about Linus, just at least to kind of brush off on his personality, because I was kind of impressed with the way that he's handled the pressure. I never felt like he was very nervous when he was playing, at least not towards, you know, after he got like over the initial jitters or anything like that. And even like when I was watching him at the major, it was fucking perfect to finally see some players like in person, and just like seeing them react live when a match is going on and stuff like that. It always kind of like adds another level of perception for me. And like in general, he was the guy kind of like trying to bring up people and just like get them back focused when you guys were like in the middle of the fucking Copenhagen Flames game that just like went to like double overtime and stuff like that. So am I getting the wrong impression? Was he this way? Was he this kind of calm?
Yes, and I would sort of go back to what I said about ZTR, right? He like had like very good communication. Same with LNC. I mean, you were there for the Copenhagen Flames match. Linus was probably the one that hyped the team the most. Right, and that's what we're really looking for in these young players. They just love CS so much. They want to do everything to become better. I think so. Why we did the change was sort of like the mistake I made earlier that I mentioned, where sort of with the roles that we sort of noticed in these roles, you sort of need someone that's more experienced and takes more initiative. So it's actually a bit more technical. You actually saw Vitality Apex said the same thing about Kjord in an interview. We're sort of like he can shoot really hard, but the thing you don't see as a spectator is where they don't do something. So it's like they don't take initiative to do something. It's not that Linus can't do it or he doesn't know how to. It's just sort of it's much harder to do that in a good way at the tier 1 scene, right? And in that position he had, maybe it's unfortunate he had that position. That's like really important. And then when you get a player like es3tag, obviously, who is sort of meant for that role, the player that sort of can glue the team together, we just felt like this was the way to go forward. And considering the major was just done, it's going to be still a season regardless. We just sort of push the trigger.
Okay. Maybe we'll just use that to jump straight into the es3tag stuff. That's like a perfect segue there. We can always dial back into the major and how that all went from your perspective. But the es3tag pickup here, it's kind of happened, and there hasn't been like a massive fanfare, but there also hasn't been people like, oh, this is a shit decision. Like people like, yeah.
Did you read the comment?
No, well, maybe I'm just saying, from my opinion, I'm just like, yeah, you know, okay. What are the comments?
Open up the article, and 50% King es3tag, amazing player, let's go, and 50% is like absolute trash, recycle bin player, 6 team, a peacemaker, but as a player, it's just like everyone's not everyone, but 50%. It's very black and white.
50% though, right?
I feel like it's very black.
It was very kind of contentious in the comments. It was one way or the other. It wasn't like, well, I mean, I can understand this move. It's like either it's amazing or it's fucking trash. Like that's like
maybe that's why I ended up in the middle. Maybe this is why, because it's 50-50 either way, and I'm just like, yeah, like I don't think like it's not a signing that, you know, blows your socks off, right? It's not like the device signing, but nothing else could really be like the device signing, right? Unless you got Simple and Zywoo, and then you had device, Simple, and Zywoo, and then we're really talking. Now we're really having a crack. But with the es3tag one, it's like, yeah, okay, I can see it's going to fill that role that they need. But is the hope here, Threat, that you get the es3tag that was playing on Astralis for that short stint, just lighting everybody up for that little online? Like, is that the type of es3tag that you're expecting to get?
Well, yes, in some ways. We do want him to sort of obviously be his own player, and the good thing about him is that he truly embraces those positions. It's not like, oh, do I have to play the bitch role? It's like, oh, he's buying kit on the pistol round, guys. It's like, no, I have the perfect flash. I'm gonna do this. You sort of need that player, and something we're really lacking. And I'm gonna be a bit harsh here, right? Something we're actually lacking in Sweden in general, because a lot of the players just want to be sort of the star player. And if you look at Fnatic right now, sort of KRIMZ is sort of a bit of an anchor, but you sort of have Brawl in there as well, right? Who's also the star player. Like, which team would you go to find a Swedish experienced sort of support player? It's really hard. Like, maybe we should check the HLTV comments. I mean, unfortunately, I don't use them as a base when I make these decisions.
Who knows? I mean, sometimes there's some gold inside, I have to say, especially when we do some like lower tier articles, like, you know, a top 30, top 40 team. It's like this team is like making a change. You go into the comments, instantly some guys saying like they are picking up this guy, and you know it's gonna happen. They know everything about these teams, so there's something inside. Maybe you should refer to them sometimes.
I've got one for everybody at home right now. This is like live. I just refreshed. The thread title is Furia Fix, and the comment reads: 1, move permanently to Europe and stop smurfing on NA. 2, find a superstar beta AWPer like every winning team does. Right, there you go.
Yeah, but this is how I do my job. This is how I do my job. I just wait for the NIP thread of like the top 3 comments. Call Jonas. It's like, did you see the comments? It's like, yeah, let's go.
And it all works out. Yeah, everybody's smiling. No, but okay. So the es3tag assumption here, right, is that he can bring some experience here, because obviously, other than Device and Rez, Plopski and Hampus at this level of Counter-Strike, even though it feels like saying Plopski's been there forever, he really hasn't, right? He is still a young individual as a player. So having es3tag here coming in to be a bit more of that experienced member of the team and doing some of that dirty work you were talking about before, and how it's something that he enjoys doing, it's going to motivate the team in that way. And the fact that you're saying that it's struggling at the moment in terms of finding players like that in Sweden. So is this... You tried, you know, you had a couple of attempts, you had a couple of youngsters, you gone, all right, let's try and mold them into the player we need. Oh, we can't do it. Oh, we have to get an import in here of a Dane. Like, is that hard for you to do as a Swede? Like, now that after the levy got broken with Device, there's no problems now. You just have all the Danes come in.
Yeah, well, it is a bit rough. And I mean, especially after the major, like seeing all the NIP fans there sort of representing Sweden. But at the same time, after like looking at the final, looking at Navi's current lineup, and you sort of have to be completely honest with yourself. Like, what are we trying to do here? Like, are we actually trying to become the best team in the world? Right. And I think all the top 10 teams have that goal. And then, okay, what decisions do I have to make? Because I sort of owe it to the fans in some way rather than sort of players. So I think that was sort of why we made that decision, and we felt like it had to be done. And also, like, we keep talking Swedish, so when we play, it doesn't feel Danish, if that makes sense. I mean, if we would have changed to English, I think that would have been very, very different. But I mean, the core is still Swedish. We still speak Swedish, and I think that maybe is the way to go for a lot of Scandinavian teams in the future, because I mean, we're simply just fewer people here, and we're sort of speaking the same language.
Is keeping that language, like, be it Swedish or let's say Danish or whatever, but not going international, not going to English, is that one of the core principles for you guys?
Well, I don't want to say anything. Okay. Say like we would never do something. Right
there, you said if a player becomes available, you'll take him. So if you take Simple or or something like that, you're kind of fucked. Yeah, you have no option.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's Simple. Yeah, Jonas goes, Simple is like, okay, this doesn't make any sense for sure. No, but I think so, because in our team at least, I mean, sure, like, we're decent at English, but we definitely have a better flow in Swedish. And most Danish people, they're very good with languages, and it's so similar to Swedish that we just gonna keep it that way for now. I mean, if we would go international in some future, I definitely see there would be sort of more changes, but I just can't see it happening right now.
And es3tag, it was in the device interview you did, right, Prof, where they spoke about the language.
Yes.
And they said, if I didn't just read the headline, they said that es3tag's a smart boy, right? And he's gonna learn quickly, and device will help him translate anything that he doesn't understand out the gates. Is that basically the gist?
Yeah. And kind of like teach him, you know, oh, this is how we say something in Danish, but this is how we say it, you know, in Swedish. There are these terms. We say this, they use this. It's kind of similar, and kind of break it down into, because everyone has a dictionary. Everyone has Google Translate, but it's about understanding what it means, right?
Exactly. So, like, actually, what we noticed in these few practice days is that in game, it actually works really well. There have been very, very few misunderstandings, but talking like regular conversations, and we're talking in Swedish. We use a lot of slang. What do you say? I don't know the English word for that. Slang. Then it becomes much harder. Like, that's where we struggle a bit, right? But in game, it seems completely fine. I mean, even when we changed to like Linus or Eric or even Device and no Swedish, it takes a while because you still have your own language in game. I sort of think like most teams have their own language in game, and the sort of time where you sort of definitely need to have a better flow is in those crazy mid-round situations. Like the 3v3s, you have 30 seconds. You need to explain something. It's going to be very hard if you're not sure what you're saying.
So, fun one here, maybe not so fun. If Device and es3tag are last alive in a 2v3 or whatever, are they speaking Danish or English? Danish or Swedish?
It's been a mixture. I think. Okay. If there's like 10 seconds of silence, they can sort of notice, okay, it's only us, then they speak Danish. But sometimes you're sort of in the middle of the action, they just keep speaking Swedish.
Okay. I was going to say, like, I was going to flip it if you're like, no, they keep speaking Swedish. What if you were in like the semi-final on the final round and it was a 2-on-4? Do you want them to keep speaking Swedish, or did you maybe want them to speak Danish for that moment there? But that makes sense, right? This is the thing.
I have a question. I have a question, because before we go too far, we're talking about this role es3tag as a signing. You said Sponge. It's like neither here nor there. It's like, okay, but it's not the most exciting thing, and maybe also not the thing that people were talking about as a potential signing for NIP over the last 6 months, while you have this academy player. Everyone's saying like, okay, it's an academy player, but someone's gonna, when it's possible after the major, we'll have, you know, a signing. And it happened with es3tag. But the two names that came up, I think originally for me, it was KRIMZ, and you mentioned him now as a potentially anchorish type player, as a player that, from what we know, his like fnatic contract is running out kind of soon. Is it the thing that you mentioned earlier about people like being kind of in the late stages of their career that you weren't interested, or like what is it about KRIMZ that you think that couldn't fit this role?
Tough question. So I just to make clear, like, it's not like we had a like, do you want KRIMZ or not?
Yeah, KRIMZ is free. Just press here.
Yeah, exactly. Course, like, it doesn't really work like that. But it's I don't know. Like, obviously, being older is a big minus, but it's not the end of the world. It's sort of like if he was the perfect fit and we really needed someone with experience for that role, we would go for it. And like, he would be very close. I would even see definitely times where we would have picked him up if we had the chance, right, in some other scenarios. But at the times where we were making changes, that wasn't the case. And it is, like I said, there's so many pros and cons with every player that you have to take into consideration, and it's short term and long term, right? When you have these many tournaments, it's very easy to think like, oh, we just need to win Blast now. But there's so many tournaments. I always try to view sort of CS as a marathon and not a sprint. You sort of need to be consistent. I mean, you can lose both pistols, and you win a 1-on-1, you lose the next round, it's like 6-1. I mean, we sort of had that versus Skade at IM Fall. We were down like 8-1, and it felt like we didn't even play CS yet. We managed to save that win, but we could have easily lost the map, like towards someone like, not that Skade is bad, but we're sort of one tier above them, right?
Yeah,
no, I think I was casting that game.
Yeah, and I mean, just talking about fnatic, it's not like fnatic a month and a half ago, I feel like KRIMZ would be super available. And as you said, like fnatic now, they made changes, now they're doing well. I'm not sure if KRIMZ is available now, right? Maybe the belief in the lineup is restored. A lot of these things change very fast, so that's also kind of props to Fnatic for their transfers over the last 2 months, like going out early from the major and then just figuring out like if we wait until the end of the major, it's not going to finish great for us. So, some good shit done there. People are mentioning Forest. It's like Forest is just like a 5 times worse example of KRIMZ in terms of like being old.
Yeah.
So I don't even think that, like, if you want to say something to the people, please, because even Simple was like, oh, Forest to NIP, so people love Simple and think that's the truth. But can it be the truth?
Well, it like depends, but I think as you get older and you reach 30, you sort of, it's very hard to not have other things in your life sort of come in, and you need to focus on them. And I think it's very easy for people to, like, Forrest maybe watching the major and seeing a tournament, it's like, oh, I want this again, and he remembers it. But you sort of forget about all the hard work you have to put in and all the hard times you have to go through. I mean, this is not for everyone. Like, definitely not for everyone. This is very, very tough. And just having one of those players sort of where they are in their life, getting back into it, putting in the grind now that you have to get even harder than you did before. It's not impossible, obviously, but as I said, right, we have to make these very hard decisions. It's not going to be a good one. I mean, then he has like, I'm going to change my life. I didn't got to play all the time. I don't know if that would happen, right? It's not that he's not skilled enough. I don't believe that once you reach 30, like, reflexes are so bad you can't play anymore. I don't think that's the case. I just think it's very, very hard to stay that hungry for a long time. And I mean, we see this in other sports as well, right? There's like, I don't know how many, like, if someone is about 40 or 50 in sports, they're like legends. And that's because it's so rare. It's so rare that you want to do this for such a long time. And I'm saying this as a 33-year-old sitting here, but I can sort of feel it myself sometimes. Like, you have to put in so many hours and don't have time to have a social life to some degree, and then you lose a tournament, right? And it's just very, very tough.
Yeah, I don't know how, like, I think like Simple was playing like a couple of days after winning the major. I know there's more tournaments coming, but just to be able to do that, I remember like back in the day when tournaments would end, whether you won it or you lost it, people would go and they'd take like a whole week or 2 weeks off before they would start touching Counter-Strike again. After, like, and I'm talking like right back in the day. I'm not talking, a couple of years ago at all. But like that's kind of the sentiment that you've just put out there that I feel when it comes to these players getting older, that things in their life, they just take priority, and it's super hard to look past those things. But while we're on the topic of Swedish Counter-Strike players, we asked this question, I think it was 2 shows ago, and I still don't think we have like a great answer. But Threat, from your position, who do you think right now is the best Swedish Counter-Strike player in the world?
Hampus. Yep.
Okay. All right.
Right now. And this is because it's been very, like, changing a lot even during this year. At some point, I would have said the res. And to be fair, like with Fnatic, the way they're playing, sure, they haven't played any tier 1 teams, but they're playing really good, like really good. And Brolin is like showing himself again. Yeah, he's back. So it would be one of those 3, but in like the current form of everyone, I would probably say Hampus.
All right. Well, I guess this is the thing, right? We can do this a few ways, boys, because we still haven't discussed the major. We have to do Who Wants to Be a Skinionaire. We could do the quiz now. We can get through all the recent news. We get through the blast stuff, and then we can get to playtime with plenty of time to spare and have these fun questions there at the end. Do we think that's a good plan?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Strike a look. Yeah, we got a nod of the head. All right. Are you ready to do our little game show?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's jump into Who Wants to Be a Skinionaire, brought to you by the Bitskins. Now, Lucas has put a link in the Bitskins. He's put a link in TeamSpeak for you. Now, this time round, this is about your team, if I listened to Prof correctly. Is that right, Prof?
It's like 5 questions. Every question is about one of his current players.
Oh, God. Okay, let's do it.
We changed the skins. There's now is there a knife available? Wow. Yes. Okay. So for everybody playing at home, depending on how many questions Threat gets correct, you may win a knife. So start typing Bitskins in the chat now, and let's get these questions rolling. Lucas, question number 1. Question 1. Which record does Device not hold? He is neither first nor tied first. Most top 20 appearances, most MVPs in a year, Highest KD in CSGO. Which record does Device not hold?
Highest KD, I guess. Like, okay.
Have you made these
lock it
really
in.
hard? You made these hard, Prof?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Because
Because I got no
Because the
idea.
way I think is like most MVPs it feels and most top 20 feels like he would have, but highest KD I just simply have no idea.
I think I remember. Didn't Kenny have that, or was it Kenny had most kills?
I think it was at some point probably, but definitely highest KD right now is simple, so this is correct.
Okay.
And of course, but the MVPs might be simple, or at least simple my time this year. It's he's on 6. Device has 7, I think, for 1 year. So
Okay, couple more events. 2 more events, I think, for Navi. So 2 more chances for Simple to do that. All right, question number 2. Campus won the $100,000 QI Invitational in 2018. What was the name of the team he did it with?
Godsend, I think.
Jeez, just locking it
Not even
straight
when.
in.
Yeah, because
Alright.
I don't think he was on Epsilon, and a Gamer Legion was like right before he joined NIP, so that would make any sense.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's
He's
correct.
nailing it.
Smashing this.
Easy questions. Easy
All right,
questions.
all right. Question number 3. I'm liking this. Who wasn't a part of Rez's breakout team Cringe Gods at the Columbus Minor? Holy shit, we are really getting
Yeah,
bad.
I think it's Kevin. Because I know Sen, he played with Sen, and I remember some part of my mind the nickname Resix for some reason, and maybe that he doesn't exist. Maybe someone here made it up, but I just
That's kind of rude, I have to say.
yeah. Oh, it was-
Okay, I don't even get a chance to read out the multiple choice options here. I like this is great. All right, question number 4. With which organization did es3tag rank highest on the HLTV team ranking? Tricked in 2017, Heroic in 2019, Astralis in 2020.
Oh, this sounds like it. Because like the reflex would be like Astralis, right? But then it's like, why would this be a question then? Because I know when they play Heroic in 2019, they had a time with
Was it
Freiburg. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they had some really good results. I think they won a DreamHack Open at one point. But at the same time, it's sort of hard because Astralis had dropped so much in 2020 when they had the problems and they brought in Snappy and
Yugi and
Yugi.
shit, yeah.
Yeah, Yugi, right? But I still felt like they should have gone high enough. And they update those team rankings like really fast. It depends on like, you mean monthly or like?
You've got
I'm gonna
5
say
seconds.
Astralis.
Right?
Astralis. Let's go.
Astralis. He's gone with the big name. And the reveal is correct. The logic, you can't argue with it. You can't argue with the
It's
logic.
almost
It's
like
4
a
from
double
4.
almost
wedding,
fucked himself, but back onto it.
Yeah,
Four
Amazing.
from 4.
Double trick question.
All right. And the final question here. Question number 5. Plopski played one big event grand final. Which event was it? DreamHack Malmo 2019, Blast Copenhagen 2019, ESL1 Cologne
Blast Copenhagen.
2019.
Well,
Blast Copenhagen 2019?
yeah. Well, this is not really fair because I was actually on the team
Oh,
at that point as an analyst.
there you go. Well,
Yeah.
it is fair because you smashed it, and that's all 5 correct. This is where the confetti comes down, the champagne corks are flying through the sky. We got Lucas coming out. He's presenting the awards, and the award is, thanks to Threat viewers, you should be happy with this one. He's unlocked it all the way to the bloody knife. Bitskins in the chat, and the winner is Zao_RL. ZAO_RL. Congratulations.
Definitely
won
most dominant Who Wants to Be a Skinionaire performance
100%.
of all time.
Not
Let's
even
go
close.
down in history. Like this literally took 2 minutes altogether. So amazing.
Smashed it.
Thank
All
you.
right. Sweet. Let's keep this one going then. Lucas, roll the bumper. Let's get into the recent news.
The Xtrfy M42 RGB, what a fun mouse with 5 colorways, lightweight frame at just 59 grams with the swappable backplate to suit your grip style, the sensor, the easy core, the smooth skates and driverless control for RGB and DPI is why you should check out the M42 RGB down below.
Fist bumps go to the teammates.
I wanna see you rolling fast. Win the round. Win the game.
Parimatch, your esports teammate. Buy and sell your skins now. Easy, fast, and safe. The best skin site. Credit card deposits and withdrawals. Instant cash out methods. Get the best deals. Quick, simple, reliable. Bitskins.com.
The nice thing about displays are super high quality and very easy to hang up. All you have to do is mount the magnet they provide you, then just stick the poster on the wall. Every art piece they offer is super collectible and looks great no matter where you place it in your house or room. Another wonderful thing about Displate is they also look after the environment. Every poster someone buys, Displate will plant one tree. They have already planted over 14 million trees and they're still planting. So you're not just getting an awesome poster, you're also helping the environment.
All right, we are back in action here. I'm going to be jumping straight into the recent news. One of the things that's hot off the presses is G2 parting ways with maLeK. Now, Lucas, let me throw you this little link right here, bringing this up for everybody at home. Scroll down to the tweet. I'm about to start reading it in 3, 2, 1. You'd be the quickest producer in the world if you're already there, but as you can see, I'm skillfully filling. From maLeK, he says, "Today marks the end of a great adventure. I've been G2's head coach for 3 years, and, well, that went fast. The decision to part ways took place a few weeks before the major, and I loved every moment of our last run with the boys." Now, that one right there, when you read that, for that decision to have already been made before the major, you coming in, that's not necessarily a great sign, is it, Striker, for the major overall, if they were going and knowing they were going to be changing their coach?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much the team knew. I think it was kind of like kept on the down low, and they kind of like learned after the major, or maybe during the major. Probably not during the major. It's probably not a good idea, but probably just right after the major. But it sounded like he knew for quite a while before that. But yeah, I mean, obviously, it's never a great situation to go into a major knowing that there's going to be a change. But I mean, as far as I could tell, maLeK was doing everything that he could to make this their best placing, and they did finish second. So clearly, it didn't have an impact, that's at least not a negative one.
What, 3 lands in 3 years, and 3 lands in 2 years in the grand final of every single one of them, other than the RMR. We don't count that one. That one, well, actually, for threats,
Just the one
we probably do count that one. You know, depends on who we're talking to here. But Prof, I'll throw this one to you. This kind of signals maybe the end of the French era of G2. Like this has got to be it now.
Seems like it. It definitely seems like it. I mean, but it's not even. I feel like maLeK is a coach that can work with any players, right? I don't think he is someone that needs to be there for the French guys. I think like for the French guys, it's good to have him there as someone that can maybe connect to the like Jackson m0NESY a bit deeper. But like if you kick out the 2 French players and bring out like anyone in the world, I feel like maLeK is a guy that can connect to literally anyone. Even if you don't speak the language, he's going to find a way to connect to you and like have a good working relationship. So I guess there are some reasons that you can say like, okay, they had the whole post player break slump, which was probably some fault of his, but at the same time, like the transfer policy, I feel like that's not in his hands, and this it's not like he can go out and buy players and solve some of the issues that G2 had on the roster. So it feels kind of I don't know, maybe undeserved in terms of like removing him. That's how I feel. I don't know.
Okay. So, right, what do you make of this whole situation, right? Obviously, the thoughts that, yeah, it's happening before the biggest event of the year, the one thing they should be gearing up for. The results maybe weren't great, but it still seems like, at least in my mind, it felt like a lot of the teams were trying to peak at the major, right? And they made it all the way to the grand final, but he's gone regardless. Like, what do you make of this situation?
Well, very hard to know like what the coaches actually do in other teams, but like playing G2, I mean, I sort of felt like they always had a good game plan in every match they went into. Obviously, they seem to have a lot of communication issues in their slump. I don't really think that has anything to do with the game plans he made or the anti-strats he made. So from that perspective, I mean, that's basically the only thing I can see. I think he did a good job. As for this team, though, I mean, I would probably be also like a bad coach with this team, working with like Serbians. I think you need a very like special personality. Well, from what I've heard, right, it seems like they have really big personalities within the lineup with Nico and those players. So I think you sort of need a coach that can manage that. I don't know if that was the reason why they changed, but that could be one of them, because I felt like in technical terms, I think he did a good job.
Yeah, I mean, in general, like to play on that off that a little bit, to me, it more feels like they just want a big overhaul, right? And they just like want to change the identity and stuff like that. And obviously, their identity for a very long time was just like communicational issues, just like this Serbian French mixture that like never really meshed together super well in terms of that. And so, like, if you want to change something, you probably want to change the coach as well. If you're just going through a big lineup overhaul, because like that's just it's like a part of the old system and you want to change the system, right? So that's probably, I would say that that's the thinking that G2 has, because like everything's pointing to them rebuilding the roster as well. It's just like making at least a couple of changes to the actual team. So like if that's what the plan is, and you know, if you take out the Frenchies or at least one of them, like there's much less reason for maLeK to stay because of what Prof was saying in terms of, you know, mediating between the French part of the roster and the Serbian one. So I feel like that's where G2 is coming from, and that kind of like makes sense to me as well. That just if you want to change the entire lineup, maybe it's a good thing to change the coach as well. So, but as much as I do agree that it feels a little bit scapegoaty, and maLeK probably didn't have so much to do with, you know, of course, like communicational issues, like maybe some part of it could be down to the coach, but like to be fair, like it's not like it's going to be easy to make a guy like talking about Jax who barely spoke any English, and you know, just throwing him into a team that is international, and he has to just like he gets thrown into that, right? Like even though he had a couple of years, it's like not going to be easy to make that work if you're a coach. So overall, I don't hate it. I understand the point behind it, but you know, I don't feel like maLeK was a problem in that team.
If we take it with what you're saying here, if we take a couple of steps back, right? Do we think that the root cause of the issues with this team making it to the grand final, like same, you guys don't need the point again, but the point remains, the fact that they have been a good team over this period of time, right? Like even though they have had their ups and downs, the events that matter, or the bigger events, they've been there, right?
Yep.
So are we saying that the issue for G2 not winning trophies is the fact that it stems from communication, or are we thinking that there are other issues there, like maybe, like realistically, if we're breaking this team down by the X's and the O's, sure, maybe communication would hamper them in an area or two, but not having a star AWPer, or you know, in an era where star AWPers win you games, right? Like, no offense to m0NESY, I think that he does a great job with what he has left over, and then Nico does his best to make the space off the back of that. But not having an AWPer in this environment, that to me felt like the bigger issue.
Yeah.
So then that feels like that's something that if maLeK didn't get the control of the roster and couldn't be like, all right, well, we need to get m0NESY out and bring someone who can AWP in, if that is like an upper management decision level thing, or if that's the players who are getting to have say over that, like the issue, I don't know if it, I'm not saying, I don't know what maLeK does for the team or did for the team, but even if communication was an issue, I feel like the fact that they were missing key pieces seemed to be a pretty big issue as well.
Yeah.
So that's why I was just trying to reverse engineer how we were getting to him being released, right? So I think we're all under the agreement that this team will have to make a couple more roster changes if they want to win trophies.
But this is, for me, this is the question now, or maybe Threat can help here. Like, how do you build now? How do you make like 2 changes on the roster if you don't have a coach? Like, who is going to decide who you're going to pick up? Like, now you have to find a coach, and then from that you need to find the players that are going to like work in the system that the coach wants. This is how it should work, right? And that means like this will take like 2 months to have a new G2 roster.
Yeah, it's very hard. I mean, maybe they want to bring in a new coach and sort of let him help with making this decision, so to sort of have that system in place and they empower him. It always becomes a bit messy when the players gets to decide. I think the players should, to the extent you can, have a say and input. But you definitely need someone, and that's, yeah, it sounds really weird. I don't know if it's someone like Ocelot who's their sort of Jonas Gunderson, like if he just buys players randomly, like, yeah, you're playing with this guy, or how they do it now, right? It's very hard to know, but that's a very good point, right? I don't understand how they're gonna, I mean, if they're gonna make these changes.
Yeah, they got Swanee, who was their analyst doing the coaching stuff in the interim here, right? Probably, I think that's what we read.
Yeah, and they have Jerome, what's his nickname?
Yeah, Jerome's right.
Yeah,
Niak, who's still the manager, and they I don't know who's their like general manager type person now, because one of their people went to EG, and would you look at that reports that maLeK is now going to EG? Kind of interesting. But yeah, maybe we can swap to that. What do we think about that potential move?
Yeah, what's next is an interesting conversation, right? And I think what's next for both parties. So I guess we can pick up there with the maLeK situation for G2, for EG. But we know that EG's in we know that they're having roster changes. Like that's
they already
guaranteed.
kicked out 3 players, so
yeah,
that's
but
pretty
we
obvious.
know that they're like in the conversations to get some of the big boys, right? Like some of the rumors swelling around that you see people talking about is potentially Naf and Stewie over there to that team, or maybe some of the players are going over the Liquid way. We don't know which direction anyone's going, but by bringing maLeK in, right? If it's for him just to coach a team that already exists, right? Like that's going to put him in a situation where he probably just found himself with this team, right? Like.
I think the way you're leading it, and I like it in terms of, you kind of, and that's kind of ties into the conversation that Prof was trying to have, right? You kind of want to sign your coach first. If you're building a lineup, it's kind of like, it kind of needs to start with somebody who's going to make the decisions, unless you're going to do it the old way where, the players are going to have all the say and a coach is just going to be there to do the anti-strats and to do like preparation and stuff like that, right? But like if you want to have like a structured team that kind of like works a little bit more top to down, like you're going to have to start at least with a GM who's going to put together the roster, or a coach if you want to kind of like transition that power over to that kind of a person, right? So like I like the fact that they're starting with a coach. I don't know if they're starting with him, but that's kind of like the first report that we've seen from the camp from EG, at least in terms of what looks like is very near completion. That was the report from Deserto that said that they're in advanced talks. So clearly that this is something that both parties want, and it's probably going to happen unless it just hits a snag at some point and then they don't come to terms or whatever. So I like the approach, and then from there you can figure out like what players do we want, what players can we get, like which direction we want to go. Like clearly EG have said this, right, in terms of focusing on North America and trying to build a new roster somewhere there. So clearly they want some North American talent, even though it might not be like fully North American. They already have Cirque, right? So that's kind of like the direction that they want to go in. So I mean, I don't see anything bad with this.
Yeah, I was going to ask the question of where else could he go, right? Because I was just scrolling through the top 30 list right here, and it's like, actually, there's not that many homes right now unless orgs are looking to shake things up themselves, right? Like you're scrolling down the list.
Complexity is not on the list because, obvious reasons.
Yes, well,
they don't have a roster, so
well, I'm hoping they just buy Copenhagen Flames, right, as a full package. That'll solve that problem right there. But the maLeK question for him personally, like maybe he would have, if he didn't get this EG offer, he would have to wait until a door gets open somewhere at these teams. Because like as I'm saying, I'm scrolling down, I'm not seeing many opportunities here for him just to slide on in that makes sense. And then
FaZe would be interesting as well, I have to say.
Yeah, I think it depends. I guess it depends on what they're looking for in a coach, right? I guess with Carrigan there being a strong in-game leader, you might not need a crazy analytical coach. And they have Inner Shine, right, as the analyst doing that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
I mean, Robban is their coach right now, even though he was like a manager for some time. So I'm kind of questioning if he really wants to do it, or he's just like filling in the role until they find a better option. Or maybe he's full on. Who knows?
Let's put the hat on the other head. That's a saying. I don't know if that one exists, but we're going to use it anyway. Threat. If you're G2, who are you looking towards now to get as a coach? Like, are there any names out there that immediately leap off the page at you?
It's very hard, and the most likely one is a boring answer. It's m0NESY, right?
There's a report out there.
Yeah, and it's like before.
Isn't even Kassad the even more obvious pick though?
Well, get Yanko in there. Just get all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, well, they're not really. I mean, Kassad, he coached Xtrfy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the end, he went back to those guys. Yeah, and well, I think m0NESY, because he just played at the top level, would probably be the best pick as well. Because I mean, if you look at G2 right now, they definitely need someone that sort of. I actually don't know how m0NESY is in this regard, but he can work with the Serbian players, and he also needs some tactical knowledge. Because I think Nexa is a good IGL, but I don't think just the player sort of, he brought it up with Kerrigan, that sort of he can bring up the system himself, right? I think they sort of, or they actually want someone who can build the system for them. And maybe Kazad is great at doing that. I just didn't get the feel that he was the one doing that in his teams.
Yeah, I guess, Brett, while we're on this, what do you think is the biggest issue? Like we spoke about it before, right? Briefly, right? We said communication. I didn't end up getting to the end of where I wanted to go, but like from your perspective, when you obviously watched the demos, what do you think is the biggest issue with G2?
I think there's some sort of disjoint in some of their games, because the times we've beaten them, we have a lot of maps where we sort of steamroll them because they seem to sort of crumble under the pressure, and it's sort of those wins where afterwards it feels like, oh, like it's you don't feel that happy because it really felt like they sort of just handed it over to you. I mean, all of you guys have seen these G2 matches when they have their lineup, they have Nico, and just sort of like, what the hell are they doing? I think what they sort of lacked is just having a clear system and really committing to it. And I think that's why they were good on stage. I mean, we played them and it was very, very tough, obviously, and we did beat them in the previous match we played them. It's sort of they had like a very clear game plan, and they sort of know like, okay, we can't make it too complicated. We're gonna be on stage. And like that Inferno match we had the first half, they just went so aggressive all the time. You could almost like feel like the testosterone from their side of the stage. Like they were like, we're gonna push every round and never stop. And they sort of had that plan, and they were all committing to it. And just doing that, even though it might not be like the technical best tactic, they're still committing to the same plan. As for sometimes when we play them online, where it becomes like really slow paced, you could sort of see them crumble a bit. So they probably like need a coach that can see their strengths, because they're I'm telling you, like very hard to play against when they're on that roll and they just keep pushing. It's not as simple as like, okay, Nico is gonna push banana. It's like, okay, it's hard. It's like there are no good solutions to that problem.
I mean, everybody knows that Nico is going to be pushing like in yard on nuke and stuff like that and trying to search for duels, and people still die to him. So it's like, it's not that easy.
Yeah, it's fun actually, the piss around of the first map, because we had a long discussions what we were going to do on the T piss round on Inferno, and we sort of we noticed they didn't like to go aggressive, but we also had like a read that they'd like to mix things up versus us. So we said like, yeah, they're going to rush down middle in the piss round. And like, we think the best counter for that, we're just going to wide up slope and meet them. And we do that, and we literally die all 5 in 2 seconds. As like TeamSpeak is quiet, and all you can hear is like Hampus like laughing a little bit. It's like, yeah, wow, that was really fast. And that's sort of when you sort of, okay, this is a G2 that has shown up. And I did think we made Inferno very close in the end. A few key rounds we lost, but they were clearly better than when we played them last time.
Okay. Cool. All right. Boys, do we want to leave the G2 stuff here for now and keep going with the recent news?
Yeah, sure.
Looks like it. Everyone looks good with this. All right, next one. And it's a question we get a lot on this show. And I think Simple even kept stirring the pot the other day, which has led to even more. This is about m0NESY. Now, if you're not familiar with this 16-year-old kid, he's a frag.
Said some things about an IP as well. I see Thread smiling over there. Did you see it?
Yeah, I know the comment. We read it together here at the booth. Yeah. I knew it was gonna come up.
Wait, can we read it out? Maybe so I could.
Okay. Let's finish the intro, and then we'll get to that. Let's go.
Well, no, we can take a detour here. Do you want to find the quote, Striker?
Yeah, it's at the end. I'm finding it.
Okay.
There was a question about device, because like m0NESY said like he watches a lot of device demos more than simple demos, because it's like you can replicate it more, it's more useful, blah blah. So interviewer Ilya, he asked like, speaking about device now, is he as good as he was in Astralis? And he says like, I don't think he was good as he was, which I think that's like a fair comment. Like I think that's pretty obvious. And then he said there are rumors that he would go back to Astralis, but it's unlikely to happen. He said that he doesn't enjoy playing in Sweden in NIP, and he wants to go back to Denmark. So I feel like this is kind of, you know, how people say, like, this is probably something that he heard or something. Not like, the way he said it, it seems like a fact, but he was probably saying, like, I heard something like this. But it's a very interesting quote, and a lot of people, I think, like, people have been talking about this quote more than, like, whatever the rest he said in this interview, which is kind of amusing.
Okay,
that a
so
lengthy discussion threat?
Any defense? I mean, let's be real. We've all been in Sweden. We all
of something.
all been in Sweden the last month. Not a lot of people enjoyed it, so I feel like it probably makes sense. No one enjoys it.
Yeah, exactly like that. I mean, sort of have to go the diplomatic route. I mean, obviously, it's very unlikely that Astralis didn't approach him, considering how much they rebuilt their lineup and they need a good offer. I mean, I guess it's quite clear that they want to replace Lucky. I don't know, but that's what it seems like, right? So I guess that's not unlikely. And you know, like where he wants to live, I don't know, but it's sort of the same with the Nile thing. This is like tiny things on the internet gets turned into like the most extreme version of themselves, right? And this is obviously like not true. We're playing these tournaments now. We have a lot of tournaments planned. So yeah, it's not true, obviously. But like I'm just here. Obviously, there's bias. So why would people believe me? But I can't do anything else and say it's not true.
So saying the vibe in the team is good, and Device isn't constantly saying like, "I hate Sweden, fuck this team."
Yeah, that would be a weird definition of good vibes as well.
Oh dear.
Yeah, no, the vibes is very good.
Well, I did notice if people missed it, that interview with m0NESY on HLTV, it's quite lengthy, and the kid, I don't think he's been put through the media training ringer completely just yet, or they're just more open than you expect. But just some of the comments in here from him, he actually goes into a bit of detail. So if you guys want to check that out, you guys all know where to go. But we're talking about the reports on this kid being picked up. Now, there's a lot of teams swirling. We were just talking about one of them before who could use a pretty good primary AWPer, but we're talking about a 16-year-old kid here, Striker. Are we looking at just another one of these individuals who's just going to hit the ground running and be a beast? Is that really what's going to happen here, or what do you think is likely?
I mean, to be fair, like if you think about G2, there was that whole thing about them kind of like missing out on ZywOo and saying like that they don't want to sign him. Like this is years ago, not this when he joined Vitality, but like when ZywOo was coming up and he was in either AA or the other team that I can't remember right now. There was like a rumor where G2 like kind of considered him but didn't want to take him. So I feel like after seeing ZywOo do what he's done and just like fucking heat it out from the first year that he entered Tier 1 Counter-Strike, literally becoming the best player in the world in that rookie year, like G2 probably doesn't want to skip out on a player that could potentially hit the same levels, right? And m0NESY, as much as maybe he's not that extreme in terms of like how quickly he has adapted to like Tier 1 CS, because ZywOo was just like destroying everybody in FPL, and obviously like m0NESY is in FPL, but he's not at the same level as ZywOo. Like you don't see him just like destroying the Tier 1 scene and like everybody. He's just extremely good for the level he's playing at in terms of like the Academy League and stuff like that. He's clearly above that level, but we don't really see how much above, right? Like we just haven't really seen him play against some of these top players a lot at the time. So like we just don't know that about him. But obviously, like if you see a talent like that, you kind of want to jump on it and just like get him into your team. And like if it doesn't work out, then whatever, right? But like if you have that opportunity, I feel like you just jump.
I'm just scrolling through the top 30 again once more, just having a look at like, oh, where could he go, right? And the thing is, you have to consider the amount of money. Prof, do you think this is the type of thing, if you're a NAVI Academy, NAVI Junior, NAVI whatever, Creche, NAVI Play School, whatever they're open now, if you have these kids under contract, like I have no idea what the contract looks like, but are you going to put these other orgs through the ringer here? Is this something that you think is going to be a big buyout, a small buyout? What do you think it's beneficial? What do you think is the kind of go here?
For him, it has to be a decent buyout, like hundreds of thousands. Like otherwise, it's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what is the point of an academy team if you have someone like this and someone just buys them for 50K? Like, what? Then your whole project doesn't make any sense, because if you build a player that's good, then anyone can take him, I feel like. So it has to be a bit more pricey. But obviously the numbers don't lie most of the time. When we talk about numbers, like the numbers that he's been putting on, like 1.35 rating constantly over the last year, that guy is certainly good. Is he going to be the next Simple? Is he going to be the next ZywOo? That's like very hard to say, because we only had 2 of these players in the last 10 years of CSGO. So he's most likely not going to be that, but maybe he's going to be like just that level below, and that's already a revelation as someone that you can build your team around, right? So for me, the difference between like ZywOo going from like AAA to Vitality, and like m0NESY going from Navi Junior to G2, it's the language barrier for me. That's, I feel, the thing that's going to be very hard to adapt to with all of these other things that come in, like different just environment, different team, different communication, different just like culture of the people that he's going to be around, combined with the, you know, getting used to tier 1 play. So I would like to see him continue in like a CIS team. And I don't think it's, I think good long term, it could be a great move for G2, but I think short term, it's not gonna, it wouldn't be amazing for a team that wants to win tournaments yesterday. I don't think that's the perfect fit.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go, right? I think if you were in that coaching chair or in the owner chair of G2, even if you knew that he was a prospect or a talent, it's like if you're so close to winning trophies now. When I say so close, you're getting blown out in finals, but you're so close in the sense that you're getting to the finals consistently. Then making a change like this, it could hurt you more than it helps you. But the thing is as well, like I know there's a lot of good AWPers, but is there a natural fit right now?
Free.
Yeah, and there's not too many that feel like a natural fit right now for G2 either way. Now, Threat, I want to ask you here, because you've had the experience with the youngsters of LNZ, ZTR. I don't want to lump m0NESY into that same bucket and assume that you're going to know everything about his personality here. But like for someone who has had a bit of overlap now with the next generation and these 16, 17, 18-year-olds, what do you think like the biggest hurdle for a kid like this is going to be making this tier 1 leap?
Well, sort of the struggles I mentioned before, right? So there's a lot of technical things that comes with playing at the highest level. But I actually want to go back to the Navi lineup here with Bit, seeing how well he worked. Like maybe Navi has like a really rigid, good system around the Navi Junior team that sort of trains them. I mean, because obviously Bit performed, like overperformed. He was during the group stage. She was the highest rated player of the tournament, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he made it like we lost to them as well. So maybe they sort of have a system to work around that. I don't know. Because just seeing how well Bit was implemented into Navi makes me think it could work. I mean, the biggest issue here is the language still. Like, there will always be the elephant in the room. I mean, if people are talking about us bringing es3tag, like at least, I mean, even if Swedish didn't work, we would have English, like we have a language. I mean, does he know English?
It's apparently what did we ask Simple about it, right? And he said it wasn't as good as Simple's when he was in Liquid back in the day. So if people remember, Simple's English wasn't terrible, but it wasn't. It was
quite basic. It was basic.
It wasn't conversational, right? It was functional for, you know, a little bit of back and forth and Counter-Strike English, right? So that's something but it's something that G2 apparently already tried to work on with Jax. So
that's why I hate this move, like potential move, so much, because this is a team that #1 issue over the last 2 years. Okay, top 2 issues over the last 9 months. No primary AWPer, bad communication. So what they're gonna do? They bring in a primary AWPer that's inexperienced on tier 1, but okay, it's a primary AWPer, which is pretty good with the AWP. But his communication is even worse. So let's just destroy this thing even more. Let's just have people that literally have never spoken, like not spoken, but never played an international team. Let's just do that once again. Like for me, it seems like a fucking nightmare, honestly.
And maybe that is their like next level solution. Like if the communication is the problem, like let's not communicate at all. Let's remove it completely.
Just headshot.
Yeah,
everyone understands that one. Everyone. Okay, so were there any other reports about him going to other teams? Because like if you were going to build another good CIS team, I think there's enough players that you could definitely do it. We've already spoken about this. I think you were mentioning Wonderful last time on the show. Deco is another one of those AWPers from the region. There's a lot of players from that region. Mirz, I don't know.
Yeah, Mirz is not on Spirit anymore, right?
Yeah, start with Mir and m0NESY. You go there. There's 2 players. I'm signed up. Get me 3 more, and we're probably off the races.
I don't think you know Spirit have a good AWPer as well. Verspro have a good AWPer, so that's not going to happen for these teams that they're going to buy m0NESY plus the Navi selling to primary competitors in CIS feels kind of weird. But potentially, like if Complexity, the rumor was also at one point that they were maybe considering a CIS team. So if they can pick up m0NESY, if they can pick up Mir, and whoever the fuck they want to add to that team, doesn't even matter. That's going to be pretty good, right? So maybe something like that can work. International teams are obviously also an option, but I don't think it would be good for him to do it at this point in his career, honestly.
But like, who the fuck do you to get instead though? Like,
Yeah, that's a hard one as well.
it's always gonna be a CIS player. It's gonna be like Elliot or Wonderful or m0NESY or like one of these CIS players who've never spoken English in their lives in a team. So it's like yeah, I don't know what else they can do because there's no other offer that I can see that they can just grab and know it's gonna be he's gonna be good. Like there's nobody. Unless
What's
they
up,
just
you
are
guys?
willing to buy somebody out. I don't know.
Nork? What was that threat?
No, like I was actually just saying, like isn't it weird? Like CIS, they have all the offers.
They have, like,
Denmark,
10
they have
offers.
all the IGLs.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. And
So you just what
Sweden
you're
has-
saying is like
I don't
instead
know.
of Danish Swedish, like we have to do like a Danish CIS superpower where you just like have the best in-game leaders on one side and best offers on the other.
Yeah, because like it's literally like Navi. It's like we have so many offers, we have to sell them right. Can you take them? Like, no, they should like teach them English just to like earn money or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that should be start of the plan now, right? They should be add that into the curriculum with the future. Like that would probably become something in the academy teams in the future where they're teaching these guys English so they can actually sell them off. Like, why not? Why not? They're doing everything else. All right. Let's jump into a bit more other roster speculation that's been going on. There's been lots of conversation in North America. I still hate the fact, right, that apparently Joker Steve tweeted, and you guys mentioned this last week, it kind of went in one ear and went out the other. The fact that Liquid and Vitality both said they're going to play with their rosters until the end of the year, I fucking hate that, right? I understand why. I hate it regardless. E.g., I mentioned earlier the NAF and Stu combo going over there to join Breeze and Cirque, and then I don't know, like I'm seeing people typing about it. I don't know if what seems real. Mouse Sports. I think we're a big part of why the rumors around, like we're just like, yeah, Rob isn't going to be there, right? Isn't going to be there with Mouse Sports at the end of the year. He's going to go somewhere else. That just feels like a given. Like Rops is at that point where he probably needs to make that jump up just organizationally anyway. But rumors for him are potential G2, which we've spoken about in the past, is roll overlap with the Nikos and the Hunters of the world, or FaZe, which does make more sense on paper. But are there any of these here, boys, that stick out like a sore thumb? Because I don't know how much new stuff there is that is actually concrete. Most of this has just been the same rumors swirling around with a couple of different names thrown in the mix.
I mean, there's shocks. There's a shocks to Liquid.
That's
the rumor.
right.
That's I don't know if we talked about this last time. It's possible that we did.
I think we did, yeah.
But either way, like that's like, I guess that's pointing to that that nobody like that would join Liquid. Like say ropz, for example, if he had an opportunity. Like there's obviously a lot of teams that would be interested in a player like ropz, and as we've fucking mentioned, like every episode we talk about ropz, like his contract is running out at some point next year, like early next year. So like clearly there's opportunities there, and there's been a lot of rumors about him getting like 10 different offers from 10 different teams. And I would be very surprised if like these North American teams didn't approach him and tried to see if he was interested. So like considering we heard shocks this recently and being relatively close to the move, I doubt that ropz would join Liquid at that point. And then there's obviously the Nitro rumors that he's coming back from Valorant, and that could be either AG or Liquid or another team like under Cloud9 or Envy or whatever other organizations are looking. So like there's a lot in NA that I think will not going to get resolved until early next year, or until the actual off season, because it seems like there's a lot of contract stuff that's going to have to get resolved in the meantime, and just like still people not even knowing what options they even have, and that's still something that's being worked out behind the scenes now.
It's just going to be ugly, like to go watching these teams play. I referenced this the other episode. I'll reference it again. It's just like the NIP in Dubai, where they were a dead team. They won, and then they got to continue going for a little while longer. But with
at the same time, like at least even if they're not going to say it potentially, like at least this is kind of like something that we know. So we just see that team perform this way or the other because of that, right? Like we know going into Blast that Liquid and Vitality were just probably going to go run around and do whatever because they don't care anymore. They don't have the lineup that they want to have at the start of next year, right? So like at least we're going into tournaments knowing who are the dead teams, and there's like the worst kept secret, it's just like everybody's kind of like accepting it at this point. It's much better than going into the major and not knowing which of these teams, like 10 different teams were probably starting to consider changes already, and you just don't know who and for who and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the weird part is that we sort of the organization sort of contract years doesn't coincide with the majors, right? So I think I don't want to franchise everything, but this is one of the cons when you don't have like a franchise league, right? That it will be these awkward sort of after the major player shuffles. And, yeah, exactly. It's weird.
I want to bring something. I understand that wouldn't make any, like, because we have 2 majors a year, right? Just someone correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't the reason that the majors got put in their awkward positions right now is because the players didn't want them to be at the end of like the natural seasons? Didn't they decide this is where they wanted to be, or am I?
I think that was like a big talk between Valve and CSPPA that was taken into consideration. I don't know if that was the sole reason. Maybe that there was a lot more at play. But that was something that was talked about at the time when we heard these dates for the next 4 majors or whatever it was at that point. It was like to the next 2 years, I think. So yeah, I know that a lot of the players aren't very happy about the tournament, the major being at the end of the season because of fatigue and stuff like that, because they don't want to have the best tournaments like just before break, because they're just kind of like already at that point where they're like the last tournament.
That makes no
before
sense, doesn't it? It makes no sense.
This is how a bad mindset for sure. Yeah,
this is how it happened originally. It was PGL Major Krakow 2017, and that was the major that we had at the end of the let's say season. It was right before the player break, July 16th to 23rd, and before that we had like Cologne, we had the qualifier, which is a separate event. It was like all of this build up. We had like Pro League stuff like that, and that was the event where people complain like, "Oh, this is shit. Everyone's so burnt out. No one wants to play right now." Blah blah, and then. I think that was the second major right of that year, and we had no majors until the next year, which is E-League 2018,
Atlanta 2018,
yeah,
Boston 2018,
Boston, which is half in Atlanta, but that was like at the beginning of the season, and then people are like, oh, this is at the beginning of the season, this is so dumb. Let's not do it at the beginning of the season. So like Valve is okay, you don't want it at the end, you don't want it at the beginning, let's put it in the middle. So then they put it in the middle, and now we're here, even though objectively, with like the scheduling being now kind of more normal and people prioritizing events and stuff like that, I guess we could move it to the end of the season. But this literally happened because, you know, you don't want this, and then you get this, and I don't want that either. So like, make up your fucking mind in the end.
Yeah,
I think it can be the start. I think the start was the worst. I think that is the worst option out of everybody, because like everybody's just like going into the major somewhat rusty and just like not knowing what place they're in, and it's right after you're supposed to make changes, so that doesn't make sense either, because the major roster rules change. Roster rules and stuff like that, and obviously you don't want to make changes right before a major. Like that doesn't make any sense either. So like, I mean, the logical choice would be to have it at the end of the season, but you know, I think this is at the same time, like, this is okay. Like we still have like this month where like a lot of the dead teams are just going to keep playing, and then like the break is where everything happens, or at least most of it. So like, I don't hate it. It's just like, you know, some of these last tournaments, I'm sure the organizers aren't being super happy about, you know, Blast having like 3 dead teams or 2 dead teams, I guess, playing in them.
If perspective,
would have been 3 if NIP weren't allowed that the last minute change. So like that also helps, fortunately. I don't want you to comment on that. I just know that that's the case. So
it's better this way though. Like I think this is one of the things, like roster locks in Counter-Strike in terms of events doing it is one thing, but then obviously contract negotiations and that kind of stuff is another thing. And then what's a good time, because Threats mentioned it multiple times on this show already, how could never find a good window to make these transfers. That's another thing, right? Like all this compounds. And I think if we keep going in the direction where the coaches have more say, you're going to want it to be a little bit more regimented, right? It doesn't have to be franchised, but just more regimented, so that everybody goes, okay, major ends, we're going to have a 4 to 6 week player break here, or whatever the fuck it is. It doesn't have to be like the death knock, right? It doesn't have to be December 20, the major ends. That can end early December, and then you can have a couple of like trickle off smaller events, but just nothing of large scale. Like you have the Blast 4 finals, which I just unfortunately I think is because of the way the world is right now. But it's like another arena event, and now we're going to go there with a couple of dead teams, which kind of, you know, takes a little bit of the shine off. Lucky it's a big exciting event, and then you have the Blast Global Finals, and like this is where a couple of the bigger names that are already going to be there are having huge changes. So you know, like if they do well, what, you know, that kind of detracts from the story. Well, maybe it doesn't. Maybe, you know, I have to frame it in a better way. I'll package it up nice and neat. Anyway, I don't think we have too much more in terms of roster changes that we should bother with right now, guys. I don't know if anybody has anything they want to get stuck into. I can see you thinking, Prof.
I don't talk about latest. No.
We're talking about
there's not
Rops
that
a little
many.
bit.
There's not that many other teams
Dogs.
who we would be looking into, because it's
Okay.
like if you look at the top, like there's G2 who was kind of like everybody knows that they're changing, but they just haven't said it
Okay,
yet.
this is the question for Threat. Which team would ropz improve the most?
Ooh.
Okay, so I would just bring up.
And would you switch
the
to
rank.
English if you could get it?
It's like, oh god, no. I think once again, like the easiest answer is also the right one. It's FaZe.
I mean, that is the obvious answer. Yeah.
Yeah, it is the obvious answer. I'm just scrolling through this because I mean you sort of have the sort of semi FaZe in OG, but I just don't think OG is there yet. I think ropz maybe could be the difference maker for FaZe to really take that next step, because I mean they are way too inconsistent right now.
I mean, that would be a fucking scary lineup, to be fair. Like if he goes there instead of Olaf, like that is a stacked lineup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean Twist has been like one of the most annoying player to play against by far.
Yeah, I mean, just
And
like
if you-
that trio, right? Like with Brokey and Twist, like that would be a fucking
That'd be a beast roster.
Yeah, so maybe I shouldn't wish for it, but yeah, it's definitely going to be FaZe. Like looking at this, there's like Liquid, because we don't know anything about who they will keep, right? It's also kind of like sad with all of these American organizations. Like you have Liquid, EG, probably going to revamp their roster, right? They haven't done anything in a very long time. And then you're going to be really weird next year. Are they going to stay in NA and have no practice partners? And then they're adding European players? I mean, this just looks like they're eventually just going to become European in that, right? Which is really, really sad because, I mean, just a few years ago, we had Liquid being the top team in the world.
Yeah, I think this is a perspective which this is a broader topic. Actually, I don't want to get into this now. I'll save this one because I'll go and I'll go and I'll go.
We'll
and
just
it'll
keep
be
talking about this every episode. Like we have to
this
stop.
is like
at
a little
some
bit different. It's just not like me doing my classic North American bashing. You know, there would have been a little bit more nuance to it for once. But yeah, okay. Let's
go to Blast.
Yeah, let's jump forward into this V4 stuff because I want to do like some honorable mentions, right? So first things first, we got a couple of teams who have been experiencing a little bit of the major blues. Gambit would have been one of those. They've had some dicey matches over there at the V4 festival, which is going on right now in Budapest, Hungary. That's a LAN event that's on right now, guys, if you want to check that one out. The tournament at the moment is in the semifinals for Saturday. Big versus Gambit, Entropic versus Fiend, the grand final on Sunday. But there's been a lot of upsets here, a lot of names that we don't know too much about. Striker, have you been keeping tabs on this event?
Yeah, I mean on and off, but obviously there's a bunch of new Czech players that like people haven't seen before a lot of the time. So and it's people I'm familiar with, so I just kind of try to keep an eye on them and seeing where they've gone, because like I kind of always it's always at the end of the year where I start caring about Czech CS, because I always do like the Czech Championship, but like do like analyst work and stuff like that. This time it's not going to be possible because it actually clashes with Blast. But yeah, this is like always the time where I start to care again and just like catch up with what I've missed on for the past year. So it's been fun.
This is the enterprise roster you're talking about, right?
Yeah, that's them, and I mean Asuba as well, but obviously they didn't do as well, even though they also had that like against Gambit. And no, not against Gambit. They had something against was it against Gambit?
They had an overtime against Gambit.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, it was. Yeah, so them and Enterprise, obviously the two biggest rosters. Like it's kind of funny that both of them, well, not Asuba, because Asuba actually finished at the same place as Sinners, but Enterprise actually outplaced Sinners, who had really big issues at the event. Like they were just terrible at the main event.
That's why I asked if they're having roster changes.
Yeah, I mean it could be. I think they would only make roster changes if somebody steals Neofrag. I think that's the only way that they actually do make changes. I don't know if they will, because I think he has re-signed relatively recently, so it's going to be hard to get him out of there, I would say. So that's why I said no. I think that's the only change that I would see them making. I mean, it's possible that they will also change somebody else, but it's not something that I've heard either. So I just don't think they would, especially with the year that they've had. It's not like they kind of peaked until now, until this kind of failure at the V4. They've been at the best level that we've ever seen them. So I think that doesn't make sense even for for them to just suddenly make
I
changes.
have to refer to Oscar's tweet though.
What did he
Oscar's
say?
tweet, it's fucking amazing. After they lost to Movistar Riders, he tweeted, "Disappointing event. We done at Sinners Esports. GG Movistar Riders." And then he like corrected himself. He said, "It's like we done at V4. What the fuck? Misclick." Actually wrote mislick, but it doesn't matter. So how do you misclick Sinners instead of V4? I'm not sure.
I think it was just like, wanting to say something else. I don't think I would look too much into this, honestly. Like, I think
thought
that
it
was
was
just
very
like
funny.
a gray
Detective
flag or
Prof.
whatever.
Yeah,
Okay, I would look too much
reading
into
into it as much as possible. So
Yeah.
yes.
I mean, in terms of enterprise, I think honestly, like these were like f0NESY is the guy that I had my eye on. I said this on Twitter because it was actually one of the guys that I kind of like was looking quite a lot into at the end of last year when there were some changes in Entropic, and I was like trying to help them scout and stuff like that. And f0NESY was like one of the players that I really, really was hoping would make it like to Entropic, because they were kind of like the top 2 team after Sinners, basically, and they were looking for like an upgrade in the opping department. And he was like the obvious choice. He's kind of like the Shiro type opper who's like very young and just like on the rise. And I think he is the best opper outside of Oscar now in the 2 countries, in Czech and Slovakia. So he's always been on my radar. But like these two new guys that they got for this year, Mattis and Adias, Mattis especially has impressed me this tournament because he's been their highest rated player. I've never really even seen him play properly like on a top team before. This is like his first year on like one of the top teams in the 2 countries. So that's kind of cool to see.
Okay, cool. We've got the nationalistic pride for Striker out of the way here. Now we can turn our attention a little bit to a couple of these honorable mentions and then get into the blast conversation. First one's first. I think that we have to give an honorable mention to the new British fnatic. They've been performing quite well. If you take a little bit of a look at just some of their numbers here in terms of maps played with this roster, I think it's 30 in total. They've won 27. They've lost 3. The players is how you want to see it. Smooth's at the top. He's joined the team and he's doing great. But Brolin is there at number 2. And I think what is most important is KRIMZ being at number 3. Right? If KRIMZ was straggling at number 4, and I'm not saying like the margins here between him and m0NESY is basically nothing, but you want to see this because it means that there's a third wind to KRIMZ, right? Because I think a lot of people were starting to write him off a little bit in that because he wasn't performing fantastically. But KRIMZ is the type of player I think who's still definitely got it in him with the type of Counter-Strike he's playing, and I think him playing well buys room for m0NESY to bet himself into this tier 1 Counter-Strike still, right? There's not a super rush now. If you have Smooya, Brolin, and KRIMZ performing, m0NESY can kind of take a bit more of a backseat there, and Alex seems to be calling some good Counter-Strike. Map pool's looking good, so just wanted to give them an honorable mention alongside of the boys over there from Turkey. I want to make sure I is it Eternal Fire? I always thinking of Wizards and Pixies with team names like that. They've got like a fire staff or some shit.
Eternal Flame.
Apparently, Wox Eternal Flame. Wait,
the song?
No, it's a lot of people. A lot of people
get it
call it
wrong.
Eternal Flame.
I'm gonna get a lot of DMs.
No,
Wox apparently Woxic's in-game leading. Who the fuck would have thought? When did that happen? Did anybody know?
Like a month ago or something. There was like a tweet, like it was a very big tweet from Woxic, and there's somewhere in the middle he's like, I started calling. So a lot of people missed it.
Okay, so the key piece of information there. Threat, you got any honorable mentions? You've been seeing anyone in practice who's been turning heads?
Well, once again, I go with the easy answer, Copenhagen Flames. Again,
okay.
After the major.
Good answer. Safe answer.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they will have a rougher time now afterwards because they will have a lot more pressure going into the online. Like they're expected to beat any team. And I mean, just the teams we're talking about here from V4, right? I just went to Enterprise's HLTV page. And it's just crazy to see a team. They took a map off of Gambit. They're in the playoffs now in that tournament. And at the same time, they like lost to Young Ninjas like 2-3 weeks ago. And it's sort of becoming like before you can like, at least if we're playing outside of the top 20, we're like safe, right? But now it's like the top 50. It's becoming more like almost like they can take maps off of anyone, right?
It's good.
Yeah, I like it, right? But it's scary.
Imagine as a coach. You got to get mahone watching a couple more demos, mate.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. Like Jesus, on these, like just coming from IM Fall with all these Bulgarian teams, we played both Fiend and Skade, and they have like these like weird nicknames like Rainwaker and Duplicates, and it's like shit. This is gonna be serious.
I'm sure they had anime profile pictures up there as well. We just couldn't see them. Let's do this. I want to go into this Blast 4 finals conversation thread. I want to bring you in immediately with this. Lucas, here's the bracket. Bring this up for everybody at home. Now, Prof Striker, I apologize. I'm going to put us in the back seat here because I feel we've already been over this 3 times over 3 shows. So we might just have Threat run us through the bracket as he sees it, right? So the link I have here for everybody, all of our audio only listeners, is the Blast 4 final bracket. It's double elimination. This event is kicking off in a couple days time, starting on the 24th of November from Copenhagen. The finals are going to be in the Royal Arena. All you screaming fans, you're going to be there having a great time. But the bracket here, Threat, with these roster changes, and you have one of them, and you have a banger of a game. Do you want to take us through these matches? You don't have to go super in depth, but like matchup for matchup and how you see things progressing.
So, if I start with Navi big,
yep.
I mean, it would be so easy, just like Navi's going to win this super easy 2-0. And obviously, they will be the favorites, but I think people will underestimate the chances of big. I mean, if you try to like put this into some context here, right? Big, as they're in the semifinal. They won their group in V4. So let's imagine a world where Big wins V4. They have a lot of confidence. Navi just come off a major win. Maybe they're feeling a bit content, and Big is really excited. I mean, Big has, in the past, they're the last team to beat Navi, right? Outside of
could
Gambit.
Be possible. Could be
outside
possible.
of Gambit, that is. I think so, at least. So obviously, I wouldn't say it's like 90-10, like many people would probably say. I would more say like 60-40, 70-30, that match. Okay. They will probably pick themselves up in the loser bracket if they would lose. So, as for heroic FaZe,
this one feels a bit harder.
Yeah, because they're not playing in front of the crowd. So okay, if they played in front of the crowd, I would say FaZe, because I think maybe heroic would feel the pressure playing in front of the home crowd. But that's going to be heroic. I mean, FaZe is just too inconsistent right now to bet on them.
Okay. In the stats for Big that you mentioned, it is correct. The last team that beat them that wasn't Gambit was Big, ESL Pro League Season 14 on August 29th.
Oh my God.
And Bit only had 15 kills over 2 maps. I don't know if we'll see that happen maybe ever again. So there you go. There's a bit more of the numbers. All right, so heroic on that one. Who's the next match?
Vitality Liquid.
Click too far.
Oh,
yeah. This one here is going to be a game for the ages. Threat. I'm sure you can't wait to watch 2 dead teams go to war over a best of 3.
Well, I'm gonna say Vitality in this one. They still seem pretty strong in practice, and I'm just gonna say Vitality. I mean, Liquid is so shaky, and as it seems like it's confirmed, and all they fall into the old LG lineup or SK lineup, right? Vitality will. I think say Vitality will win that easily 2-0.
Okay. All right.
So you're saying that Vitality, even though they're that team, they're still practicing. They're practicing before this event.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, every team. I'm sure every team is doing that. I mean, that's gone are the days where teams would just be like that casual that they just wouldn't care about it. I think players. I mean, there can be a lot of controversies, and that's usually what you read about. But players in general are quite professional about these things nowadays.
Okay,
you're all laughing.
Let's go.
That's all right. That's good news.
It's nice.
Yeah.
That's good news in itself. I won't put you in the awkward position to pick yourself over Astralis here. Let's do this. What do you think of the new Astralis roster on paper?
Well, I think it's better than the old one. They used the major.
Okay.
Because we did play them there.
Yeah, well, no, you didn't play them. You owned them. 16-1.
Yeah, 16-1, and we lost one of V3 versus Lucky.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
you had to give them something.
Yeah, exactly. But no, in all honesty, the new Astralis lineup is it's so hard to say because they also changed the coach, and it's not because I actually have. He was probably the best IGL in 1.6, and being a 1.6 player, sure. I have crazy respect for Ave. But we're literally 10 years into the future now. it's too hard to know if this will work. And Sonic was so good at keeping the players and systems running very smoothly, something that I know is very hard to do. And you remove him from this, and then you add the two very big personalities in BlameF and Config. I think if something is going to be super high variance, that's what I'm going to call the new Astralis, which is kind of ironic considering old Astralis was the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Just to add on the save conversation, I don't think he's going to be at Blast with them yet. I think it was said something like Config and BlameF would join them immediately, but they would come in somewhat later. I don't know for what reason exactly, but it was something, as soon as possible, they said. But I haven't seen any videos with Ave or anything like that. They've done a bunch of stuff. I don't know what it is exactly. It could be like
Hunden,
whatever.
it's really just a puppet for Hunden. Actually, they've just signed Ave to be the face.
Now they're doing the face-off thing currently. Right? They're replacing Hunden's face with Ave's face, so Hunden can be behind the team, and Ave is just gonna be paid to look like Hunden his whole life, essentially.
Lucas, does this technology exist in your country? Do you dastardly Danes have that technology yet?
I have no comment.
Okay, well there you go. Anything's possible here. Okay, so high variance on Astralis. Now let's do these three quick ones with you throughout. Who's going to win the whole event?
Well, I won't say ourselves because that would just be
you ruin the fun if you do that.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to say NAVI, because also it's very hard to look at the other teams and like seriously say they would win.
NAVI.
Yeah, like Heroic. Yeah, Heroic gets the home crowd buff and they win Blast.
Okay.
But this isn't a parallel universe where we don't exist, right?
I like the story.
Yeah.
It's one I'm going to try and sell in a couple days' time. I don't know how it's going to work, but I'm gonna try.
Yeah, now you have 2 locations where you get a crowd buff. I think that was the play from the beginning.
Smart as well.
Yes.
Wait, is Device going to get booed or cheered?
There's no way he's going to get booed.
What do you mean he left Astralis?
Dude,
but
Heroic
we
didn't
love
get booed
him.
Heroic
Do you
didn't
love
get
him?
booed
We
in
love
Sweden
him.
where there was like shitloads of Danish people. So
Yeah, but okay, hold up, guys. You're missing so much context here. Can we just put this for the Danish fans for a second? He left the greatest Counter-Strike team of all time, which represented Counter-Strike as a nation in Denmark. But it's not like he left them to go to Liquid or to Cloud9. He went and cheated on them with the beautiful girl next door, Sweden, NIP, one of the biggest rivals that the two countries that Counter-Strike has ever seen. That's what happened. So, Lucas, do you still love him, or are you a little bit jaded?
No. Because now he brought in es3tag, you know, and he only needs to kick one more guy and get another Danish guy, and now we're Danish. You know, it's an inside job.
Essentially,
could that be a coach?
Essentially means that Stockholm is now Stockholm just becomes a part of Denmark if that happens. So I feel like he's onto something right there.
Okay, all right. Okay, so Heroic wins.
But let's okay. What do you have? You have some more questions, right?
No, I was just gonna say who does the dark horse, but I would say that in that case, Heroic would be the dark horse. We all think Navi's gonna win. So that's
what about for NIP? For NIP's perspective, what are you looking to do here? Like, is there? I guess people are now saying, new player communication issues. So now they have 2 more months to be shit and have excuses for it. I'm actually like all of my questions are just like what people say on HLTV forums. So
yeah, I already told you that's how we work already, right? We're just waiting for the NIP.
So you know all of the answers already. So
I'm just looking for NIP Blast here. Let's see. They're expected to go out last. Yeah, that's what we expected. No, but it's obviously when you make a player change, I think in short term there could be this honeymoon phase, but you will probably lose a little bit because things won't go as smooth, right, as it would have gone with Linus. But we definitely don't want to go into this and already have the mindset. It's like, yeah, this is just playful. We don't want to win this. We're going in trying to win because we believe we can win. And looking at these teams, we can win. We're not favored to win, definitely not, but we can win. And I think that is very clear.
Do you think you got enough practice to be a fairly competitive team? What's it like in terms of that? Because we don't know how long these talks have been going on, how much you've been playing. You probably have been playing before the announcement as well. these things move quite kind of slow. How did that work? Like you have like 2 weeks of practice, I guess.
Yeah, well, a little bit less. So we obviously want more practice, but in this day and age of CS, you always want more practice, right? You never have enough practice, and I think during Corona we actually become quite good at sort of having as many match days as we have practice days, right? And it's a skill that I think a lot of the other organizations have mastered as well. So I think we will get into decent shape, but sure, there might be some hiccups, right? That's very hard to spot in practice that might show in the first match. And also on top of that, we're playing, as I said, like super high variance Astralis, where we have like no idea what we're getting into. So we're just trying to focus on our own game, the most boring answer that everyone gives.
At least you acknowledge it, so it's fine.
Yeah, but it's what we're going to try to do, but we're not going to go in having sort of the excuse mindset ready. Like, if things go bad, we can't have the mindset of like, oh, because we just had es3tag, now then we have to fix the mistakes immediately, right? Because we literally have a tournament the day after or 2 days after, or whatever it is, right? So no, we won't make any excuses.
Okay. I think we're going to jump into playtime now, if everyone's cool with that. Lucas, do we need to roll the bumper? No, we have to roll the bumper. All right, let's roll the playtime bumper. We're going to do the Paramatch Matchmaker game and some final questions with Threat. All right, guys, we're going to get rid of that bumper if in the chat we don't. Oh, we do. We're getting some claps.
Feels good, man.
Stop hating the bumper.
Oh, that's the better TV. You can get out all the wide peepo happies and all that. Great. All right, we got the reaction we were looking for there. We're going to jump straight into the Paramatch Matchmaker game. Now, we need 2 links. What's going to happen here is Lucas is going to PM Threat a link that nobody at home will get to see. He's also going to PM a link to the other 3 of us that everybody at home will get to see. Now, this time round, Prof, you told me at the start of the show, but that was 2 hours ago. What is the...
we have, I think, 5 like top 10 teams, and we have some like descriptions for them. I think one of it is like who's going to win a LAN first. Here we go.
G2, Gambit, Heroic, FaZe, fnatic. And then the descriptive terminology here that Threat is going to be able to talk us through is first to win a LAN, first to change, number 2 team of 21, high potential, need more work, exciting to watch, annoying to face. So you can start us anywhere you want here, Threat.
Okay, so I'm going to start with G2 then, because they're at the top. And when you say first to win the LAN, do you mean out of these teams or next year?
Out of these teams.
Out of these teams, okay. So G2... probably not the first to win a LAN because they're not even playing Blast, so that would only be an Aya ball this year. Unless, well, I'm going to say first to change because of the changes we just discussed for a very long time. So obviously first to change. I think this almost goes without saying.
Yep.
I think they need some more work, but they have very high potential.
Okay, I like this. We got a lot going. This is good. He's taking full advantage of all the options here. This is what we're looking for. He not only did he smash who wants to be a skinionaire here, he's nailing this segment right now as well. This might
Next time for Threat, we'll just do like all just game shows.
Yeah,
from the start.
This is like speed running HLTV Confirmed, right?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I don't think like annoying to face, even though we lost to them in the major. Because at that point I felt like their win condition was sort of being the sort of committing to all the calls and having Nico play that well, and there's a lot of teams that have very, very good players that we face right now, so compared to other teams I don't think they're necessarily annoying to face, not compared to CIS teams, right?
Okay,
they're much more annoying.
Again, annoying to face?
Yeah, so let's go into Gambit. Annoying to face. Here we go.
What makes them annoying?
Okay, this is what's annoying with playing Gambit, right? It feels like you know what they're going to do, and like you prepare. And with all other teams, I sort of have this mental frame of like, okay, this is what they do. They are good at this. They're sort of bad at this. But with them, I sort of see like they're extremely good at some things, but they can be very poor at other things. And then they sort of just, I mean, you see at the V4 tournament, they can like lose to V4 or to V4 Enterprise. But they're also the only team to have beaten NAVI in the NAVI era, right? So they sort of have the highest highs. And when you're playing them, I mean, I think I even have a round example here in my mind where we play them on Inferno once, where we have like the perfect read. I don't know if it was on the prep or just in a mid-round call, but we sort of knew they were coming short in apps on Inferno, right? So we're blocking them. It's like 15 seconds left. We smoked everything off, and we were like 5v4. And you just fast forward 20 seconds, and we're like, 1-on-2 after plant on A. And it's like, how does this happen? Like they sort of just magicians of like making something out of absolutely nothing. So when you're reviewing that, it's really hard to know what to do, because it feels like you're doing everything right when you're playing them. And I know a lot of other teams have the same mindset. I think they're just so good at some of the basic things, which might be the key to their success. And maybe other teams are underestimating that part, but they're very annoying to play against.
Do you think it's more like individual skill, or the team being so long together, so between each of the players they know what to do and how to kind of complement themselves, and in 15 seconds they know what everyone's going to do, so they can figure out like the ideal route to win the round?
Yeah, I think it's more the tiny things in the mid rounds, like getting into a good crossfire in an after plant. Because if you watch them, I don't think they're sort of masters of sort of understanding the rotations perfectly and making a really smart mid-round call, sort of that on the Astralis level when they were in their prime, that they did really well. But because, as I said, right, you can even have them in your trap, right? You read their rotations, but you still need to finish them off, right? Even if you read them, the round is not just going to win itself. And that's where they're just like very, very efficient and all trading situations. Yeah, sorry about the little Gambit rant there.
No, it's good.
It's amazing.
I wanna like, the thing is, we can only watch it, right? We can't really perceive what you're telling us now. So this is the nuggets at home that people should be paying attention to. Do they fit any of these other categories, or is it just annoying to FaZe?
Well, obviously second best team of 21.
You think they're still the start of the year? You think I'm trying to think if there's like G2 would be the only one.
Obvious, honestly.
But G2 with the major and the Cologne Grand Finals, right? Unless I guess it's been spotty other than that. So fair enough. Consistency.
I mean, Heroic could be up for discussion, but this is definitely gonna be Gambit because they were the best team in the world in the start, and that's enough for me.
Okay. Nice.
Regardless of these results, they will be the second best team.
Won as many titles either, like not even close.
Well, high potential. It's hard to pick that when they're the second best team in the world.
You have the mindset with Gambit that just feeding into that high potential comment, that if they do get more of this LAN experience under their belt, they're one of the teams that can go toe to toe with NAVI, because like right now it feels like there's a massive void between NAVI and everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, they sort of the kryptonite of NAVI in some way, even though NAVI have beaten them a few times now in a row. I don't know. Like, I wish I could answer this, but it's sort of I obviously haven't figured them out because we just keep losing to Gambit. I don't know that they're, as I said, like they're the team where I don't know. Like, I really don't know how they are so good they are. But they've clearly proven it both at LAN now and online. It's like undeniable, right? They're a weird team. Other than that, I don't think there's any other of these options I would put. Like, first to win a LAN, first to
maybe V4, but that's kind of a.
Yeah, well, I can pick that. That's actually true. No, I already said big. I'm gonna go for I have to go for a YOLO.
You have to be consistent.
Yeah, let's go. Big is gonna win V4. You heard it here first.
That's the headline. That's what we're running with. After the show's over, we're running with that. We're running with that as the headline.
100% sure.
Moses guaranteed.
Yeah, exactly. Oh God. Other than that, like first to change, obviously not high potential. Yeah, we're like they're very good. Need more work? No. Well, I would say that. Like I would even take need more work because, as I said, like there are some things which is very scary about them, right? Like that they can still have all these flaws and they're still that good. So I think if they could solve those problems, maybe it's because they have a very, very young lineup, they can definitely compete with NAVI or have their own era, right?
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to Heroic.
Friendly Danes.
Well, if I'm gonna be consistent, I have first to win the LAN because I said like 100% they're gonna win Blast, right? Or what is it I said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you said, yeah.
If we're not there.
With the home crowd buff.
Yeah, with the home ground buff. Yeah. Okay. So first to win the LAN. They're not gonna change lineup. I would say the third best team of 21, not the second best.
Okay, that's high praise.
I would say they, well, obviously high potential and need more work because they sort of go hand in hand in some ways. I think they might have the highest level out of the top teams. I mean, I think we've seen matches with Heroic where they sort of hit a gear that's like very, very good and like no one can stop them. It just seems like they're so like they need the momentum so much, and I think the work they need to do is sort of how can they be a bit more consistent and sort of deal with sort of like they're sitting on stage trying to hype up and they're down 8-1 because I don't know, Nico clutched a 1v3 or something, and they're sort of being able to get back to that level because I think that's what they need to work on, right?
Cool. Yeah, no, I'm with you there.
Yeah. Exciting to watch. Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of funky moves. They're probably the most dynamic CT team in the world. They are very aggressive, and they always do something. They're sort of the opposite of CIS teams in some ways. Where CIS
that's a good way to look at them.
Yeah, like okay, like if you have a spectrum here, right? This will be Virtus Pro, and this will be Heroic. I don't know if you see my hands in my camera. There we go. Yeah, yeah. There's absolute opposite teams like Virtus Pro. They're like ridiculous. They get naded and lose 50 HP. And it's like, hey, I'm probably gonna save you guys.
We've seen it. We've seen it. I've seen them save like 4v5 on a T-sided gun round on Inferno after they lost the opening pick. I was like, are you fucking serious? But yeah, whatever. It works. They win. You can't argue with it, can you? That's the problem, Threat. It's not exciting, but you can't argue with it.
It is very smart to do, and I wish I knew how to get my players to do like those super logical decisions all the time, because like obviously no one else is doing it. But you have James there who's like quick scoping everyone, like sitting with a cup of tea. Did you see that clip? It's so hilarious.
Okay, no. It's a lot. This is the problem. This is why Valve are going to implement short matches at majors instead, because of this fucking saving. I can feel it in my bones. I can feel it in my bones.
I mean, it becomes that's sort of expected, right? When teams become much closer, the game becomes much more of a poker game, right? You have your chips, which is economy, and you want to bet if you want to, like when you're committing to a strat, it's sort of like you're putting the chips on the table, but you still have the option to just fold, right?
True.
And that's how I think they view it. And unfortunately here, Chad, a lot more teams are going to play this way.
Yeah.
Because teams will be better, and maybe we'll get a patch to solve the economy. We don't know, right? Because where we're heading right now, it's going to be boring for the viewers.
What
it is.
I want to float this one while we're in this, right? I want to float this idea. Now, I think I've mentioned it on the show before, Threat, but I'd love to hear what you think about this, right? Right now, there's a couple of bomb sites that stick out in my mind where you can stay very close to the bomb after you've planted it as a T and you're in no risk of dying, right? Nuke, for example, certain plant spots, you can stay in the control room window. You don't have to exit. You don't have to worry about CTs killing you.
Not to B site even.
Exactly. You can sit at the car. You don't have to exit the site. You don't have to worry about any CTs who are there doing damage to you in that way, right? If it was more deadly, the bomb radius, or it was a wider, larger bomb radius, I know I need to be careful now how I speak with these terms because it can be quite finicky, but basically, if the end goal was that after the Ts had established the post plant, they now had to work on exiting, and it would force them into areas where the CTs could be waiting for exit kills, which means if you exit too early as a T, it might initiate CTs to go for a last-second retake. Do you think that could be a way to deal with these slower ends of games? Like that is that a concept that you think is something that could have pros and cons? Because one of the pros is even if the CTs just go to closer positions to get exit kills, it's going to keep the economy closer, right? They're not going to get to save all their guns. It's not going to blow out, and we get more end round action. And then in the 1 out of 10 or the 2 out of 10 occasions where the CTs posture a little bit closer, right? They're going to fall back when the bomb's going off too, but they're close enough that you as a T have to exit or you're going to die. You get a kill, maybe you go for the retake in the last 10 seconds. You know, like maybe it could have a little bit more active ends to rounds. I don't know. That's something I was thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the idea that you have to make that choice as T. Like, okay, should we just play it safe and lose the weapons and secure the round, or should we actually fall back? That would be an interesting dynamic, because I completely agree with you. That part of the round is usually like very boring. I think where it could backfire is if the CTs, like I think a lot of good teams would just sort of block all the escape routes, and make sure the T's died all the time, and we're already in a like very CT-sided meta.
Yep.
And you have a lot of CIS teams. So they would be even more careful with the T economy, which means like if they're investing into a push, they definitely need to know this is going to go well, because they can only have like 3 or 4 buy rounds per half, because every time they plant, they all die or something, right?
Yeah.
The CTs will maybe like stack the other side and just block their escape routes. I think but I like the idea that's sort of thinking a bit outside of the box. I think. And maybe like the chat will hate me now, but I think Valorant has some good like quality of life changes to the game, right? And I don't think like the community sort of like hate each other. Obviously, they had a chance to change those things. It's like maybe compromising the economy and have fewer rounds will make more sense. Because the thing here also, like when you have fewer rounds, that's why it's like wasting a round is not that big of a deal, because it's only 1 out of 30. Whereas if you only played like less rounds, it would be a much bigger deal to just save. So I think that is a pretty good solution to the problem. Though we have to change the economy then, so we don't go into the back. I don't know how old school you are if you played in the MR12 days, where you lost both pistol rounds and the game it's over.
GG.
Right?
Yeah,
it's GG. Didn't work, right?
Yeah. Okay. I derailed us there a little bit. Sorry, Threat.
Yeah.
Well, take us back to the Paramatch Matchmaker. We got FaZe and fnatic left.
Okay, FaZe. First to win a LAN? Nope. First to change? Well, we were wishing for the ropz change, but I haven't heard any rumors about it. What the hell? Yeah, you have 2 teams first to change. They will change the same day.
Okay.
GG and FaZe.
That works nicely though with their histories. Okay.
They have high potential. I have to give them that. They need more work, definitely. I think they're quite exciting to watch. I'd say. I think Kerrigan calls with a lot of passion, and I don't think. Well, obviously, as I'm building systems in CS2, I think the more rigid way is better. That's why I'm a coach working for NLP now, right? But it's exciting to watch someone that tries to improvise that much and trying to solve problems on the fly. And there are definitely pros to it. There's not only cons to calling that way, even though things will be like the players might be a bit more uncomfortable because you're making stuff up on the fly. Is a very good way of calling in high pressure situations, or like in deep overtime matches where like everything goes. So I think Kerrigan is a very exciting IGL to watch.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, I mean they won't go for the 4v5 save.
No, they love it. They'll get stuck in. That's what you want to see. All right, fnatic.
Fnatic, okay.
Swedish Englishman.
I'm gonna say high potential, need more work. Exciting to watch. Boom.
All right.
Yeah.
Bang. And looks like some fucking tentacle porn we got on our screen right here. Look at this.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I love
I was
that.
gonna say this is like the most complicated most.
No one can
like
see
interlocked.
anything from
Yeah.
this.
I like it. Though. It's the most well thought out
good.
one we've had. It's the
It's
one
good.
that's had the most descriptive terminology used as well. All right, that's the end of the Paramatch Matchmaker segment. Now we're over 2 hours as per usual here. But what I want to do at this point is we usually have some viewer questions, and I'm sure we, Striker Prof, have a couple of questions left over for Threat as well. Striker, you got anything in the back of your mind?
I mean, just in general, we didn't really touch on the way the major ended for you guys, which I guess was massively anticlimactic. I'm sure for you guys
Not
as well,
in their
I'm
major
sure.
jerseys, though, Striker. I want you to make sure that you're clear on that. They did change back. It was a bit of a Mighty Ducks moment. Threat, did you have anything to do with the jersey change?
No, Striker already asked me this at the event, actually. And
Okay.
I mean, I actually, like, it's going to sound harsh, but I don't really care so much about this. I was looking like, wear this.
Yeah, it's just clothes.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I could wear a clown suit. If we win matches, let's go.
Yep.
You know, I think I can say this when I asked Jonas about it, about if they budge to the community pressure and saying fuck it, we'll just go back to the old jerseys. His exact words were, I don't know what you're talking about.
It's more the players you have to worry about with that shit. Like, what happens is one of them goes, man, I played so much fucking better at IEM fall when we were wearing the other jersey. Like, man, I had a Mars bar and I was fucking dropping 30, man. Like, that's the shit where you just go, for fuck's sake. Like, it's true though, right, Threat?
Yeah.
Maybe not that true.
We have so many of those
players,
those comes like memes. Like, it's ever like, if someone has to have leg day and during match day,
and
it's like almost like it's gone so far, it's like almost not a joke anymore. It's like, fuck. Like, you have to do legs. It's like, yeah, but I did it yesterday. It's like, yeah. Feel bad when we lose, right? It's like, you've done like 5 hours prep. It's like, yeah, this doesn't matter. I just need to do those squats, right? So then it's like secure the victory.
Oh, they didn't have scrambled eggs for breakfast today. We're fucked, boys. It's all over. The thing is, the problem is, a lot of the time, that kind of stuff that comes out of players' mouths, you're hoping they're joking, but as soon as it gets into the teammates' heads around them, it doesn't matter if they were joking or not. It's like, it's fucked already. And it's so silly that that's a thing, but it truly is a thing. I remember it vividly.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And it's sort of like, it's you go to a new event and you're sort of sitting at the table and one player's like, oh, the angle of the table seems a bit off. And then everyone else is like, yeah, maybe it is. And they like played that match for like 30 minutes. It's like, what? This doesn't make any sense. You played 30 minutes and said it was fine.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah, we still have some of that, but I think every team, as I said, like on the people being more professional, I think there's something both the teams and the players are working on, right, to make it more professional.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, it is. It's better than it was 4 years ago.
I'm sorry I derailed you right there, Striker. Serious question.
Absolutely okay. No, just like a reflection on the major for you guys, because I obviously, like, there were some high moments, some low moments. What's your reflection on the major?
Yeah, so going into the major, we had real high expectations, as I think we should have. I think that was even the headline, like, if it was overhyped, and I would say yes. Us being ranked second in the world was a bit overhyped because, I mean, we only played the European RMR qualifier and we played the Blast qualifier before that. But also we did beat all the teams. So that is also true, right? We went to those events and we did beat them. We beat almost every good team. And in Pro League before that, even though we didn't win, we had a very 2-0 Gambit. So we've basically gone through the entire top 10. Except for NAVI the past year, and we can beat anyone, and we just came up a win, right? So we had really high expectations. It was just we sort of knew that the CIS teams might be a struggle. We played NAVI and Gambit in the group, lost to both of them. We had that very, very intense match versus Copenhagen Flames. Like, oh my god, it's probably one of the most intense experiences in my life. Especially because I couldn't do anything. It was a very weird experience because you're just sitting there. I mean, you probably saw me sitting there like this, and it was horrible. So we did win that, and I have to give some credit here to Copenhagen Flames. They played a very, very good tournament. I don't want to sort of take anything away from that just because we had a bad tournament. I still think that was a pretty good match. It was very scrappy, the last match, with a lot of mistakes from both teams. But of course, right, you're playing the last map so much on the line. It's not like you're getting top 8 at the major, you're getting a coin, it's stickers, it's everything. So obviously tons of mistakes from both teams, but we managed to push our way through that. And at that point, it sort of felt like we made it past the sort of the hard test of the tournament. We made it past Copenhagen Flames, who had upset a lot of teams, and we didn't sort of have a like really tournament. And then when we saw, go ahead.
Yeah, no, continue. I thought you were done. You had this like pause of like half a second longer than a normal pause is, and I'm like, oh, he's done. So
Swedes, we have all these like weird social awkwardness things. Anyway, we see we have G2 in the bracket as well that we did beat just a few weeks ago, like quite. I think it was it wasn't 2-1. It was ancient. Anyway, we did beat them. And we felt very comfortable playing them. And we sort of knew which maps we were going to get. We were going to get into Inferno and Mirage. Mirage is not a strong map, but we did beat them last time on it. It's sort of like, hey, they're going to pick into a map they've just lost to us. And we're going to get Inferno that we crushed Mouse, Astralis, and Copenhagen Flames on, right? We just felt like a lot of confidence going into that match. And then, as I said, like the pistol round that I already talked about. And it sort of just... It was sort of like we ran into a brick wall, and we were just very shocked how we lost that match. Just 2-0. It didn't really feel like we got anything going outside of the CT Inferno. I mean, we did turn it into 13-11 at a point. We took like 6-7 rounds in a row until Nico broke us again. He just pushed B, double entered us both. But we were sort of like the review after, like very quiet because we really maybe still haven't really figured out what happens. I mean, maybe there are some inconsistencies, problems. We're not going to scapegoat and blame this on Linus in any way, right? He was like really good versus Copenhagen Flames. He struggled a bit on stage, as like did other players in the team. But it was sort of, it just felt very mediocre going out in the quarterfinal, especially also because the biggest portion of the crowd didn't come until the weekend. And it was just sucked that we missed out on that. And I don't know if we're ever going to get a chance to have a major in Stockholm, like building the sort of Cinderella story again. But we sort of have to come to terms with that. That's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, no, that right there, I did consider that, but it's like the turnout of the crowd from the opening days to the Saturday, Sunday, like night and day in terms of just the atmosphere in that arena. So that one there does, yeah. I can imagine.
I mean, to be fair, during the NIP game, the atmosphere was huge. It didn't feel like 4,000 crowd. It felt like full arena because they were all behind an IP.
Yeah, that's true.
I have two questions. One is a short. Two questions. One is a short one. I mean, it's kind of a short one, but maybe it's not a short one. We'll see what the answer is like. Going into the event, I think statistically, everyone looked at Ancient's and NIP's Ancient. You're like 8-1 on it, and people are thinking, okay, NIP have Ancient under lock. They're going to use it to just abuse it all the time, pick it. Everyone's going to just lose Ancient to them. But then the actual major started, and you didn't even pick it. I think you played it maybe once or twice.
Third map a couple times, wasn't it?
What was the... Did everyone like misread the situation? Like, was your Ancient just not that good? Because looking at the scores, they were quite close. Maybe it's just like everyone was on the wrong boat there.
I think our Ancient... I mean, we haven't played NAVI, but we have basically beaten everyone else on it, and I think we are definitely top 3 on it in the world, I'd say. So we were very confident. It was actually more sort of our CT Inferno was so strong that we just felt like we could just head into that map versus any team. And I mean, we actually showed that, I would even say, in most of the matches. Yeah. I think something that took us a bit by surprise was how much we struggled on the T sides on every map, and that actually doesn't only go for Inferno, but on Inferno as well. So we just sort of felt like our T side it's been decent when we practiced, but our CT side was just so strong. And I mean, we had like 14-1 versus Astralis, 12-3 versus Mouse, and then we were down 10-5 versus Copenhagen Flames. We won 11-2 as CT. Like, yeah, you see my point, right? So it was definitely that made us pick Inferno over Ancient. Obviously, Ancient was always there for consideration.
The T side is the second part that I wanted to ask. Is es3tag gonna be a part of the is es3tag a part of the solution to NIP's T sides?
Yes, it will take a bit more work though, so I don't think we will see any major changes. And this might sound a bit like scapegoating. I think we sort of noticed we struggled with the T sides after the patch because it's very clear like the average rounds you get sort of shifted like 2-3 rounds more in favor of the CTs. And not only because of the M4, but also because of the nades. It's just very easy. Like you're just so flexible as CT, where you just put an extra nade set somewhere where you really need it, and it's so hard. You can't count the nades as T anymore because they can just drop it, and it makes things a lot more awkward. And not like overpowered, but 2-3 rounds, and 2-3 rounds is actually a lot, right? I mean, if you compare 10-5 to 8-7, that's a big deal. And maybe we were struggling a bit before, and this sort of amplified this by a lot. So just having es3tag now, coming like being really good in those like rigid Astralis systems, yeah, it's definitely something we're trying to apply now.
Okay. I'm just trying to think. Do we have anywhere else we want to pivot here, boys? Is there anywhere else we want to go with the questions? Is there anything from the viewers, Prof?
So who's the best Swedish player right now? You asked that one, even though you didn't know the questions.
Yep.
Blah blah. Okay, we asked that. If you had won the major, would you still make a roster change?
Oh.
Yeah. Would sound so like diplomatic. It like depends on the context, because it definitely would, right? Like it would depend too much on the context to just answer that yes or no, right? So I can't say.
Okay, so yeah, here you go.
No, I was going to ask about mahone. I always like to find out more because the coaching role is a role that we don't know too much about, and same as the analyst role within the teams. And mahone, I had watched his stuff online, and then he was your analyst, and I heard some good stuff from some of the teammates that he does a good job. I just wanted to hear it from your Matthew, because I'd assume you'd work the closest with him, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's just a machine. He really helps me a lot with the prep. Not only with the prep, with his he's here now working with the team, and like just giving me a second perspective. Also, like, I mean, our schedule is so intense. Just sharing the load with someone who is also very passionate about CS, and also someone that's actually a bit outside of the sort of Scandinavian Swedish bubble, and have a completely different view set, right? In some ways, I actually like that he hasn't gone through like the pro scene and like the steps everyone else has. It just makes things very different when he's there. And I think he's obviously doing a very, very good job. Yeah, just an awesome guy, like very self-critical, always wants like feedback and how we can change things with the prep and everything. Just awesome to have him on board. And yeah, it's very interesting that we found him through YouTube, right?
Great, right? Like, imagine if you had, like, this is the thing which blows my mind, is all the resources that are available today, and just how quick that they're doing it. Like how quick a match happens and it's on YouTube the next day. Like just the highlights, the cool new smoke, the one way. Nothing's a mystery anymore in Counter-Strike. And I can imagine for you, it must make your job a pleasure and a nightmare at the same time. It's like, how many, because you're not coming up with new things anymore. You're no longer revolutionizing the wheel, right? You just you kind of, you're still trying to think outside the box, I imagine, but it must be so difficult to do so these days with everybody having everything so well ironed out.
Yeah, and also like if you find like a new crazy execute, let's take the old Cobble execute. I mean, way back, right? People would use it the day after, like in matchmaking, it feels like. Because I don't know, Nord out here is a very good resource as well, right?
Yep.
I mean, you can just YouTube. I need a nade for this, and just YouTube it.
I do it mid game now.
Sorry?
When I play pugs, I do it mid game. Like I got stuck holding middle on Vertigo, right? And I was like, fuck, I need a Molotov here. I need that one that bugs through the floor to help my B defender or some shit. Like I just YouTube it mid game, and then like I'm good. I'm going. Like obviously that's not applicable when you guys are on LAN or anything, but you can learn like that quickly now. It's Counter-Strike for dummies at this point. I love it. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, we literally do that too, right? So if it's like we mess something up, we're just scrimming. They say like, yeah, Björn, can you just check this out and you show me next round? And it's like, yeah, it's the leaf to the right or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I
Striker,
have what? Yeah,
yes?
Striker is
No,
like
had
sleeping.
nothing.
He's
Yeah.
sleeping.
I'm trying to wake him up. It's a Friday night. He's getting
Lucas
ready
is
to-
just like messaging me if we made the joke about Thread being here, even though we hate each other apparently. So.
Oh yeah, the whole rivalry with HLTV.org and
IP.
But it's just Jonas.
SE.
I was going to have a word to Jonas at the end of the video, Lucas.
I have one more question, and this is not from the HLTV forums, but my kind of could be completely wrong, but I have this feeling that like you, as someone that's like from 1.6, old school player, in-game leader, all of this, and Hampus as a completely like new age, run around, shoot heads in-game leader, you have like a quite different view of the game. And like that is maybe a blessing and a curse in some way. Like, how do you and Hampus actually get along in terms of creating a system, strat, game plan for games?
Surprisingly, we share a lot of ideas.
Okay.
A lot of ideas. And I mean, you can look at Hampus and what you remember. It's the same like with my career, right? Like people remember all the crazy cobble smokes. And the same with Hampus. You will always remember the sort of, he pushed behind them and knifed the guy on B Mirage, right? Because that's what you remember, right? But then you have all the like boring in between rounds where people just default as a trade, they plant the bomb and save. And he actually likes like a sort of a rigid system, but he likes to throw in his own type of variance into it, right? I mean, obviously we disagree about some things, and we can have some heated discussions about it, which is very, very healthy. So yeah, I think we actually agree on most things, even though, as you said, right, I'm old school and he's new school. I think people still have to play by the same meta.
Okay.
I got one last one here, and unless anybody has anything they want to interject. We're good? Everyone, all right, cool. What the fuck's going on with Plopski? Because I don't think we're getting the best Plopski. What's wrong with him? Why is he not shooting people in the head anymore? I guess, is there no trained pop dog for him to be in or doing these Weasley stuff like he's dropped? I just had a look. 2019, and then 2020 he dropped down even more, and then now he's dropped down to just a 1 rating. He's not fragging as much as the Plopski I remember.
I think this is twofold, right? One thing is obviously the player changes, because he has been playing with that at that position with the new player every time we changed, right? So that's been very tough for him. Also, I think some of like the meta shifters has like the game has changed a lot during COVID, and I sort of having all these players changes, I don't think we have had enough time to sort of get him into that comfort zone of his with a new player. And that's also part of what we really like about es3tag now, right? It's the same thing what I brought up that Apex said about Kyojin, where we sort of need someone that takes a lot of initiative and that has experience and just like wants to do things in game. Like the sort of very Danish heroic way of playing, right? Where you're in a 4v4, you just look at your utility and you look at your teammates, it's like, let's go, I'm going to flash you here, let's do it. Because that's something we've really been lacking, and that's something that he really enjoys. He wants someone to sort of push him a bit and sort of to like tell him to make the play.
So it's like he's the youngest kid, but there were new kids in the house type thing. Now he can kind of go back to that with this new edition of es3tag, right? Device, es3tag, Rez, all pretty experienced, and Hampus, well, the in-game leader, he's not going to have any issues doing that type of shit. So okay, all right. Well, I guess we'll get to see in the short term how Plopski goes from there. Now, threat end of the show, so I want to open the airwaves to you. If you want to talk to the people at home, the fans, if you want to say anything at all, this is your time.
Well, I'm happy that we still have so many fans just following us and cheering for us, even though we've sort of have this rumor with all like the roster changes and the academy team. We're really just trying to make the best possible CS lineup we can right now. It is very, very tough, especially after COVID and with all these CIS teams. So we may have to make this sort of hard decisions. And yeah, I hope still guys can believe in us, and we're still a Swedish core. So where we won't go full CIS yet.
Yes. Yeah. We'll wait and see. m0NESY's going to have to learn a little bit better English before then. All right. Cool. Everybody, we happy, Striker? You good? You still awake?
Yep.
Give everybody a
good.
wave. Prof, you're still smiling. You're looking as bright, shining bright like a diamond. I know it's a Friday night, guys.
I'll turn it down a bit.
I know we're not used to having the HLTV confirmed on the Friday night, but first and foremost, thank you to Threat for joining us. It's been fantastic. I always love to hear his insights. Always very well thought out. A gentleman and a scholar. Thank you for you guys for tuning in on your Friday night. Thanks to Lucas for being here and pushing the buttons, and Prof and Striker for joining as always. This has been HLTV confirmed episode 64. We'll see you, Prof. You want to preview this
on Sunday?
Not this Sunday.
But not this Sunday.
Not this Sunday.
Not this Sunday.
Next Sunday from Copenhagen. We're going to be doing it live from Blast with the three of us, and we'll organize someone to be with us there to talk counter. So we'll see you guys then. That will be Sunday the 28th. We'll be back. Peace out. Bye.
Add some fun to your space with Xtrfy, designed in Sweden with focus on quality products built on experience. You're looking at Project 4, their 4th generation of products with super cool colorways to stand out, with matching sets to satisfy with a solid B4 bungee, lightweight ergonomic M4 mouse, the K4 keyboard is fantastic, all of which are performance focused, and finish it off with colorful GP4 mouse mats that are bold in design and smooth on the surface. The retro theme in particular has got the feels. Complete your setup with Xtrfy. No regrets guaranteed.
Fist bumps go to the teammates.
I wanna see you rolling fast. Win the round. Win the game.
Match, your esports teammate. Stuck ranking up? Lost the motivation to grind? Bored of clicking heads on aim maps? Get some color into your game. Bitskins.com. Buying and selling skins made easy. Tons of payment methods and instant cash outs. Just choose your dream skins, select your preferred payment method, and start grinding again. If you want to play like the pros, you gotta look like the pros.
The nice thing about displays are super high quality and very easy to hang up. All you have to do is mount the magnet they provide you, then just stick the poster on the wall. Every art piece they offer is super collectible and looks great no matter where you place it in your house or room. Another wonderful thing about Displate is they also look after the environment. Every poster someone buys, Displate will plant one tree. They have already planted over 14 million trees and they're still planting. So you're not just getting an awesome poster, you're also helping the environment.